Worried about Nikki Haley boosting in GOP polls in New Hampshire. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky this morning ruling out a ceasefire in his country's war with Russia. Said that the Kremlin forces would use the pause simply to rearm and regroup. Nick Saban is moving on to the next chapter of his life. The successful Alabama, Louisiana State coach has announced his retirement. Opening bell rings this morning on Wall Street after stocks close higher on Wednesday. Comes as investors waiting the release of fresh inflation numbers. We're gearing up for another winter storm this week. National Weather Service says the snow begins falling tonight, up to 6 inches possible through Sunday. But it's the wind that's the problem. Gusts of up to 50 miles an hour will cause blowing snow, and a winter storm watch goes into effect early tomorrow. A United Airlines flight from Sarasota, Florida to Chicago made an emergency landing in Tampa due to a door indicator light. United Flight 2434 took off around 3:45 and landed in Tampa a short time later. Websites like FlightAware showing the plane was an Airbus A319. There is a new taxpayer-funded shelter in Chicago now accepting migrants. Shelter located at the site of a former CVS in the Little Village neighborhood. Meantime, the governor said that bringing uniformity statewide in dealing with bus drop-offs is not possible.
The laws don't exist in the state of Illinois for us to do that today, right? We can't just impose some rules from the state level on every city, every county, every township.
Pritzker also tried to downplay the tension between his administration and the city of Chicago and the rest of the state in directing buses to state and city sites. A couple is dead following a murder-suicide in Downers Grove. Police say Dongwei Su shot and killed his wife, Yakun Sui, following an argument and a physical fight Tuesday night in the 6400 block of Fairview Avenue. Chicago sports, Bulls pushed their winning streak following a 124-119 overtime win over the Rockets in Chicago. Kobe White with 30. Blackhawks will try and snap out of a cold skid when they visit Winnipeg tonight. Meantime, Connor Bedard officially is out 8 weeks with that broken jaw. Bears moving on from their offensive coordinator and staff, firing Luke Getsy and 4 others yesterday. College hoops, Big Ten, Northwestern a win over Penn State, 76-72. They're now 3-1 in the Big Ten. 5:35, we'll have a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk sees trouble in Georgia.
So Big Fannie Willis goes after, and she hires Nathan Wade, her lover, to be the special prosecutor on the case. A private sector attorney brought onto the case to assist. Now, according to the complaint, this is all allegedly, I wouldn't be surprised if it's true, Wade has literally never prosecuted a felony before.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Long day. Time to charge up.
Hey, just like my delivery truck.
Even kids know to keep business moving forward, it's time to make the switch to electric vehicles. Whether you have one van or a whole fleet of trucks, resources are available to help you make the changes that make sense.
Let's go.
Beep, beep.
Go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
When you're serious about your concealed carry training and education and are ready to learn from an active police officer with a teaching degree, check out Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. You'll learn safe, responsible firearm use, home defense planning, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, and how to remain physically, morally, and financially safe in the event you must use your firearm in self-defense or the defense of another. Weekday and weekend classes available.
I'm Sergeant Gary Carr, police firearms trainer and the owner of Illinois Concealed Carry Training. We'll arm you with what really counts, knowledge and training. All concealed carry curriculums are not created equal. This may be the single most important decision you'll ever make for yourself and your loved ones. Choose between 3 and 16-hour classes that are available both weekdays and weekends. We are your one-stop for concealed carry classes, fingerprints, and legal defense plans.
Register for a class today and get 10% off class fees with promo code AM560. Visit IllinoisConcealedCarry.com. That's IllinoisConcealedCarry.com.
Hi, this is Carl Amari.
I'm Lisa Wolf. Join us every Saturday night beginning at 8 p.m. for all things entertainment on Hollywood 360.
If you love classic radio shows, The Shadow, Jack Benny, The Lone Ranger, Dragnet, Gunsmoke, and many more, we have them for you on Hollywood 360.
We'll also present trivia contests with prizes, showbiz news, celebrity interviews, games, and movie reviews.
So don't miss Hollywood 360 every Saturday night beginning at 8 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Staples stores provide innovative products and services for small business, remote workers and learners, even teachers and parents. Explore more at your local Staples store.
5:38. Get an update on the roads, a service of the AM 560 store, t-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Proft University. In the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, one major problem this morning. Got a vehicle fire burning in a right lane, Jane Addams. I-90 westbound just after Henning Road, and building delays this morning, fairly typical. 15 minutes in, 95th to the Burn Circle on the Dan Ryan. South end delays between 79th and 69th. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. In our QC Kinetics Weather Center, cloudy this morning. Intervals of clouds and sunshine for the afternoon, high 32. Snow starts overnight, accumulating a coating to an inch, low 26. Tomorrow, later in the day, cloudy with gusty winds. Snow mainly late in the afternoon, accumulating 3 to 6 inches, a high of 35. A low tomorrow night of 22. 33 and light snow at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 6. And Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, should the GOP, the House GOP, the House Oversight Committee specifically, been ready to go on Hunter Biden when he, quote-unquote, surprised them by showing up to that hearing yesterday? Did they miss an opportunity? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 646-36DA, turnkey.pro text line. Because, again, Hunter's line with his lawyer, Abby Lowell, and his Hollywood sugar daddy there, Kevin Walker, the line is, I showed up to testify. And the Republicans just plowed through with their recommendation for Hunter Biden to be held in contempt of Congress. Now, passing a resolution that's sent to the full House. But should they have been ready to go? Remember, he had this press conference outside the Capitol in December.
Yeah, by the Senate side, not the Congress side. But yeah, I remember that dog and pony show.
So he said the same thing then.
Right.
He wants to appear to be cooperative. I know people are focused on this, he came there to show up the Republicans to basically say, I'm untouchable, to shove it down their throats and so on and so forth. I've seen that, once you get one conservative commentator to say it, then you have 5 more that just rinse and repeat it. But and so that may be the effect of it, but that's not his strategy. His point of being there is not to say, I'm going to show them that I'm untouchable. His point of being there is to give the appearance of being cooperative.
Right.
I'm willing to answer questions, but the House is all hung up on their process, and I showed up twice now, and they didn't have any questions for me. They just want to ramrod me, and then the big guy can say, oh, look at what they're doing to my baby boy. They just want to use me as some sort of scapegoat, as some sort of boogeyman.
Right.
So you're here to testify, Hunter?
Then right.
Step up, sit in that chair. We'll somebody turn that mic on, and let's do it.
Why didn't they take a brief recess, go regroup, get their questions ready, get out some bank statements, swear them in, and just go? But instead, they sat there and complained. I don't know if you want to hear it, but, Mace going off.
You are the epitome of white privilege. What are you afraid of?
I know. It takes a while to turn it off and turn it back on.
So the argument, let's just focus on this question because nobody else is asking it. They're just rushing to the defense of House Republicans, House Oversight Committee Republicans. Here's the argument that they made at that in response to Hunter's sidewalk presser back in December.
Okay.
This is Jim Jordan on Hunter ducking the deposition and why they want the closed-door deposition before they have the public hearing. And this is the process that is normally followed.
We're disappointed that he didn't show up. I mean, he was just across the way at the Capitol. You think he could have come here and set the questions. If you do it in an open format now, you're going to get filibusters, you're going to get speeches, you're going to get all kinds of things. What we want is the facts. And the way you get the facts in every single investigation I've been involved in is you bring people in for an interview behind closed doors where you can get those facts. And then, as the chairman said, we'd love for him to come public.
Yeah, I understand that point, and it's a fair one. People behave differently behind closed doors than in front of cameras, and they'll be speechifying and so on and so forth. But you don't have to filibuster. You don't have to make a spectacle of yourself. You can drill Hunter Biden down. Whatever the Democrats want to do, they're going to do. But just in terms of controlling what you can control. I mean, Jim Comer's on Maria Bartiromo's show every Sunday, chapter and verse on the latest development. This weekend it's the whole issue of the lie that was told that there would be some sort of Chinese wall between Hunter Biden and I sort of mean that to double entendre, and the buyers of his blow art. He wouldn't know who the buyers were, to keep this all on the up and up. Well, of course, that turned out not to be true. So Jen Psaki lied to the American public when she said that, but it's just, more of the same sort of way of operating from this hillbilly crime family from Wilmington, Delaware. So my point is what you said, hey, you know what, Hunter? Sit there, we're going to take a brief recess, lay this out, and we're ready to go. I mean, you how much content do you need in order to put him on the dime to answer questions and step all over himself? Because I'll tell you what, they didn't show up to that hearing saying, I'm here to answer questions, expecting that Republicans would say, great, sit down. They wanted the spectacle that they got because they were bluffing Republicans so they could look cooperative and Republicans could look like they don't want to confront this nefarious figure that they're using as some sort of albatross around the neck of the big guy.
And he was so smug there, sitting in the first row with his cast of clowns, and the Secret Service was there because he has Secret Service protection, of course. And that I was begging, like, please call him to swear in, please, because he would least expect it then. And it would have been great because then you had him right there. He was sitting right in front of you.
I mean,
and also the fact that Navarro, he got arrested when he didn't go for his hearing in front of the congressional hearing. They arrested him at Reagan Airport, threw him in shackles.
Yeah, well, that's a separate issue. This is what everybody's focused on. Oh, the Steve Bannon, the Peter Navarro standard. Right. Yeah, fine. But so that's one way you could go but they didn't show up. When Hunter shows up, the other way you could go is to skip ahead. You got 11 months till an election. So you're on a time crunch too, and they're trying to run out the clock on this. So skip ahead and put him under the hot lights. You don't know what questions to ask? I mean, Hillary Vaughn, Fox News reporter, got him in the hallway and just like as a relatively innocuous exchange, elicited statements from Hunter Biden that run contrary to the statements we've heard about Hunter and his dad.
Mr. Biden, why did you put your dad on speakerphone with your business partners if he had no involvement in your business?
Do you have a dad? Did he call you?
Yes.
He answered the phone?
Yes.
Okay.
But why did you need to talk to him during business meetings if he had nothing to do with your business?
That was great.
So he called you, is what you said, Hunter. So you have a dad, you talk to him, you answer the phone when he calls. Oh, he called you to talk
That's
about
something we learned. Yes.
to talk. Give us. So now that you've said that, so that call, any number of the calls that have been mentioned by Devin Archer and Bob Alinsky and these other people who've testified behind closed doors in public on Tucker Carlson. So tell us a little bit more about that. Because here's what Devin Archer said. I mean, how fast can you get a transcript of Devin Archer's interview? I mean, you should be able to have it committed to memory by this point. Same thing with Bob Alinsky. The exchanges, Hunter Biden complaining about paying all the bills, the email about the 10%. I mean,
The
this
text
is all
messages to his daughter saying, I've been carrying this family for years.
This is all the top line stuff. You think Hunter Biden is ready to explain away all of these things? If he's not properly prepped? Karen and Beecher, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Oh, good morning, my darlings. I'm actually wondering why Hunter wasn't just arrested when he got up and walked away from the table, because he's already in contempt of Congress, is he not?
Isn't. No, he isn't. They passed a resolution recommending a contempt of Congress charge against him to the full House. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I got that misconstrued then.
It was a little confusing.
Thanks for the call,
But my
Karen.
favorite part of the day was when somebody had the Onion say, ask him what kind of crack he smokes.
What kind of crack do you normally smoke, Mr. Biden?
Mr. Biden, why did you put your dad on speakerphone with your business?
But that was
What kind of crack does he like to smoke? It's a fair question.
Oh, damn.
Nothing. You never know what you're going to get in that press
That's
gaggle.
true.
There's already somebody that insinuates themselves in. Who knows?
I just didn't know about that there were different types and brands. I had no idea.
I don't know. It's an exploratory question. So instead of, as you were getting to earlier, instead of step up to the mic, we'll swear you in, let's get it going, what you got was histrionics. And Nancy Mace, she's sort of a hot mess. I mean, this is the same person who told jokes about banging her fiance to kick off a prayer breakfast. I mean, she's not quite like in the moment sometimes. She doesn't quite think through what she's saying. So she wanted to be a tough guy, and you know how this goes. Somebody wants to excoriate the target, and then somebody else wants to do it even with more ferocity, and I'm going to one-up you that, and you get this sort of cascading effect. Thankfully, Byron Donalds was there to offer some more judicious commentary. But anyway, so Nancy Mace was the first up to go after Hunter while he was still in the hearing room before he departed.
First of all, my first question is, who bribed Hunter Biden to be here today? That's my first question. Second question, you are the epitome of white privilege, coming into the Oversight Committee, spitting in our face, ignoring a congressional subpoena to be deposed. What are you afraid of? You have no balls to come up here and...
Mr. Chairman, point of inquiry.
Mr. Chairman...
If the gentlelady wants to hear from Hunter Biden, we can hear from him right now, Mr. Chairman. Let's take a vote and hear from Hunter Biden. What are you afraid of?
Hold on. Order.
Are women allowed to speak in here or no? Are women allowed to speak in here or no? Did you keep interrupting me?
I'll interrupt the chairman. I don't know that he's a lady.
I think that Hunter Biden should be arrested right here, right now, and go straight to jail.
That's Jim Comer. He's no lady. Nancy Mace, first of all, it's not white privilege. And why are you using that phrase?
I know. That's what the woke left says all the time.
Secondly, is a woman allowed to speak? So now you're going to double down on identity politics? Thirdly, he should be arrested and put in jail right now. Well, that's what there's business before the committee that you sit on to move that process along.
Right.
What's wrong with you? Get a grip.
It was her look at me moment, Dan. But yeah, when she said that, are women allowed to speak? I thought, please stop. And then she repeated it again.
So thankfully, my congressman down here in Southwest Florida, Byron Donalds, he was a little bit more grounded, which is always helpful.
Look, let's be very clear. This isn't about Hunter Biden's white privilege. It's about Hunter Biden's Democrat privilege. Because Donald Trump Jr. showed up for 5 congressional subpoenas. There was never this circus where he was subpoenaed by House Democrats and he showed up on the Senate side or showed up at the White House to answer in some fake, phony, lame press conference, not actually going to the House and doing what he was compelled by a subpoena to do. Hunter Biden did that. And then he has the unmitigated gall to show up here when we know that we're going through actually the legislation for contempt, with, by the way, Mr. Chairman, we should actually get to the legislation of contempt. The speechifying is great, but let's do our business, members. He has the gall to come here, show up, and then when the Democrats are saying, hey, he wants to speak, he leaves. This is a joke. This is a farce. The man has been subpoenaed by Congress. Let's move forward with our business. He should be held in contempt. There was a subpoena. He did not answer it. Any other American will be held in contempt by Congress. Any other. This is Democrat privilege of the highest order. Let's do our jobs. I yield.
Yeah. That's why I like Byron Donalds. Just call things what they are, and let's get on with it. But I would have liked somebody to at least, I don't know, in a private moment or before they brought the committee to order, since they knew Hunter Biden was in the building, somebody to say, Hunter Biden's in the building. You know what he's going to do. Right. Why don't we call his bluff? Wouldn't that have been fun? Wouldn't that have been a moment?
Well, don't you think all the Democratic congressional members knew he was coming, but the Republicans were obviously surprised?
Well, regardless. Yeah. I don't think there's a particularly strong argument. I understand you want to sequence who's going to ask what questions, and you want to have behind closed doors, and then you have a transcript of his testimony, and then in the public hearing, if he says something that conflicts with what he said privately, then you have a moment where you say, well, but in private, when you testified behind closed doors, you said this about this topic, and now you're saying that, all those sort of impeachable moments. But again, you're on a political timeline. This is largely a political process with a possibility of a legal overlay, but not much of a possibility as long as these Wilmington hillbillies are in charge of the federal government. So why not call the bluff and have this moment and essentially assert control of this investigation in a way that Republicans haven't really been able to for all kinds of understandable reasons, like they're getting stonewalled at every turn, best as these federal agencies can stonewall them because they're rallying around the flag. But that would be a moment where they took a risk for the appearance of being cooperative, and Republicans took advantage. I think it was a missed opportunity. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
When you're in the market to buy or sell a home, commercial property, or even vacant land, let attorney Susan J. Kim step in. She's reliable, responsive, personable, and extremely thorough when helping you deal with an otherwise stressful transaction. Attorney Kim leads with her values and is committed to providing legal services with excellence. To contact Attorney Kim, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com. Whether it's drafting agreements, negotiating contract terms, or closing on a property, Attorney Susan J. Kim can do it all. Over 10 years of experience and her wealth of knowledge tackling complicated legal negotiations and breaking them down into a smooth, easy-to-understand process is what she does best. So let attorney Susan J. Kim step in. To schedule your legal consultation today, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com or call 847-906-3166. Susan J. Kim Attorney at Law is a state of Illinois licensed real estate attorney.
Amy Jacobson here on behalf of all of us here at AM 560 The Answer. I wanted to take just a minute to say thank you to each and every one of you who's participated in our annual Food for the Poor campaign over the past month. Because of your generosity, we've raised nearly $200,000 to provide food for an entire year for over 4,700 children in Latin America and the Caribbean. We especially want to thank the many business benefactors who supported this campaign. This year, when you hear their commercials airing on this station, please support their businesses as a way of thanking them for their generosity. And just because the Christmas season is over, that doesn't mean that the need has gone away. You can still make a tax-deductible gift of any amount to Food for the Poor by visiting 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. That's 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. And on behalf of all of us here at AM 560 The Answer and at Food for the Poor, thanks again for your generosity.
You're smart, you're busy, and don't have time to waste on the mainstream media cycle. Salem News Channel breaks that cycle. Topics that matter from hosts worth watching. Dinesh D'Souza, Andrew Wilkow, Brandon Tatum, and more. Open debate and free speech you won't find anywhere else. Salem News Channel, not like the other guys. Watch anytime on any screen, free 24/7. Find everything you need to know at snc.tv. That's snc.tv.
If you haven't switched to MediShare yet, two big reasons to at least consider it and why it makes so much sense right now. Number one is inflation, which is just affecting everything. It just makes sense to say, okay, where can I actually save? Well, you can save a lot in one fell swoop if you switch to MediShare. The typical family saves $500 a month. Secondly, your conscience. MediShare members aren't forced to pay for things they don't support or believe in, and that's a big deal for a lot of people right now. They want their money to actually help people. And one more reason, you can trust MediShare. It's been the gold standard for healthcare sharing for more than 30 years. It works, and members love it too. It has double the member satisfaction rating compared to health insurance. So now's a great time to consider making the switch, and they are very easy to talk to. MediShare has great customer service. You can call now and get a price within 2 minutes. Here's the number. It's 844-47-BIBLE. That's 844-47-BIBLE. 844-47-BIBLE.
AM 560, The Answer.
Got a great text message. Dan and Amy, I'm so tired of Republican women using the women gender card to showboat for the cameras. This comes across so childish and unintelligent. I agree. All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 6:06, latest sports and politics. Maybe Nick Saban got out just in time. California moving to ban tackle football for kids under 12, 6:06.
But now let's head into that newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
Another winter storm to hit the area and a little village shelter accepting migrants. WIND Chicago News Time, 6.
He's already picked a running mate. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Even before Monday's first 2024 contest, former President Trump wouldn't say who it is at a Fox News town hall.
Now I've gotten to know Washington. I've gotten to know the people. I know the best. I know the smart ones, the dumb ones, the weak ones, the strong ones. And I think you're going to see something like you've never seen before.
As for his critics who say another 4 Trump years would be chaos.
They had chaos. They were the ones that caused the chaos. We didn't have chaos. We got the biggest tax cuts in history, the biggest regulation cuts in history.
And the former president told voters in Iowa.
The new narrative they have, as you know, is I'm going to be a dictator. That's going to be the new narrative because a guy like Biden, there's nothing he can run on.
Now, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, both a distant second in the Iowa polls, debated on CNN, taking aim at the Republican frontrunner.
I don't think that President Trump is the right president to go forward.
He said he was going to build a wall and have Mexico pay for it. He did not deliver that. He said he was going to drain the swamp.
Well, they were also critical of each other. DeSantis accused Haley of preparing to cut Americans' Social Security benefits.
While your tax dollars are going to pay the pensions of Ukrainian bureaucrats.
That's not true.
You talk about putting Americans last.
Ron.
That is wrong. You've supported all that money going over there. So let's put our own people.
Desperate.
Now, Chris Christie's dropped out of the Republican race. And while he ran an anti-Trump campaign, he was caught on microphone saying this about Nikki Haley.
She's going to get smoked. And you and I both know it. She's not up to this.
Today, former President Trump goes back to court in New York for closing arguments at his company's civil fraud trial. The former president wanted to join his lawyers making those arguments. The judge denied that. There's a hearing at the UN's International Court of Justice in South Africa's lawsuit accusing Israel of genocide and the war against Hamas in Gaza, where 23,000 Palestinians have been killed. But Fox's Trey Yingst reports from Tel Aviv.
Just yesterday, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu seemingly addressing this claim and the trial that is taking place, simply saying that the Israelis, in his view, have been doing everything according to international law.
America's listening to Fox News.
6:02, 33 degrees in Chicago on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. This morning, a National Weather Service alert says gear up for another storm. Heavy snow begins falling tonight. 6 inches over the next 24 hours, if that forecast is correct. Wind gusts, though, expected to hit up to 50 miles an hour, causing blowing snow. Now, that winter storm watch goes into effect early tomorrow morning and lasts through Saturday at noon. A new taxpayer-funded shelter in Chicago is now accepting migrants. Shelter is located at the site of a former CVS in the Little Village neighborhood, housing around 220. While Chicago officials say they'll remain a sanctuary city, they have regulated buses, causing those buses to drop off migrants elsewhere. Asked about bringing uniformity statewide in dealing with bus drop-offs, Pritzker said yesterday that is not possible.
The laws don't exist in the state of Illinois for us to do that today, right? We can't just impose some rules from the state level on every city, every county, every township.
The shelter development is part of a governor plan to spend an additional $160 million in taxpayer dollars to address the migrant crisis. The state legislature returns for the start of spring session next Tuesday. Jury deliberations resume today in the trial of 6 suspected gang members charged in the murder of a Chicago rapper, Carlton Weekly. Prosecutors claim Weekly was killed during a years-long gang war. Couple is dead following a murder-suicide in Downers Grove. Police say Dongwei Su shot and killed his wife, Yakun Sui, following an argument and a physical fight on Tuesday. Trial date for the suspected Highland Park shooter is being pushed back. The Lake County judge canceled the February 26 trial date for Robert Cremo III. The judge will set a new trial date on February 21st. Bulls' winning streak moves on with a 124-119 overtime win over the Rockets here in Chicago. Zach LaVine, 25 points, 13 rebounds. Kobe White had 30 on the night. Blackhawks will try and snap out of a cold streak when they visit Winnipeg later on tonight. The Bears are moving on from their offensive coordinator, firing Luke Getsy.
And you have to evaluate honestly with the people that we have in this building, the changes that we've started to make today, the people that we will hire, the core group of players that we have, the draft capital that we have. I mean, just look what is accomplished.
Bears president Kevin Warren. Northwestern Wildcats dominate the second half of a 76-72 win over Penn State, and the Fighting Illini take on Michigan State tonight. The news, a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and the Sean Thompson Show. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Make sure that you never miss a day of Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson when you subscribe to the Chicago's Morning Answer podcast, presented by Signature Bank. Listen to the entire show each day on demand with limited commercial breaks. You can subscribe today for free at 560theanswer.com and click on podcasts or search for Chicago's Morning Answer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Go with your gut. Your dog's immune system is based in the gut. A diet lacking in nutrients can cause itching, scratching, and a weak immune system. However, there is a solution. DINOVITE, Dinovite.
It took a grand total of 2 weeks. The dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Try Dinovite for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Learn more at dinovite.com/radio.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dinovite.
Progressive presents
10 things on a contractor's to-do list that are harder than getting a commercial auto insurance quote. Bidding a new client, giving an accurate estimate, finding affordable materials, getting a client to pay you for work you already did, getting a client to pay you, period, securing permits and workers and tools, getting those workers and tools to work together, and finding the perfect pair of overalls. Pockets, baby. But the easiest thing on a small business owner's to-do list? Seeing if you can save on commercial auto insurance. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms and conditions.
Listen up. Do you or a family member or friend have an outstanding student loan and don't know where to turn or how much you're required to pay? The rules around student loan forgiveness have never been as complex as they are right now. The wrong decision could cost you and your family tens of thousands of dollars in unnecessary loan payments. Attorney Ray Kaplan at Kaplan Law Firm is here to help you make the right decision. And they recently saved a radio listener over $145,000. Kaplan Law knows the rules, knows the laws, knows the regulations, and loopholes inside out. Don't pay another cent until you've consulted with attorney Ray Kaplan. Call today to schedule a phone or in-person consultation. Call Kaplan Law Firm at 312-294-8989. That's 312-294-8989. Or visit financialrelief.com and click on Contact. Financialrelief.com, click on Contact. Kaplan Law Firm, 25 East Washington Street in Chicago.
6:07. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg traffic center time. We'll start in Vernon Hills. Accident 45 on Buffalo Grove Road. Niles an accident, Oakton and Austin. Bishop Ford jams up inbound on the south end. Stony Island feeder into the King Drive, south end of the Ryan, as the Ryan is also delayed this morning. Travel time there, 16 minutes. 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Southbound I-55 this morning jammed up due to road construction. 2 left lanes shut down. Outbound 55 between the Veterans, I-355, and Joliet Road. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast in our QC Kinetics Weather Center. Here's Steve Williams.
Cloudy skies this morning, partly sunny by this afternoon, the high 32. Cloudy with some snow late tonight, could see about an inch, low 26. We're in a storm watch tomorrow morning, snow. Look for 3 to 6 inches, very windy day, the high 35. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
33 at O'Hare, next news 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Sports and politics and sports and politics and sports and politics and intersection. Arrogance and ignorance. Arrogance, ignorance, and arrogance and ignorance. Intersection.
On this installment of Sports and Politics, I thought this issue had sort of gone away.
What's that issue, Dan?
But California has brought it back. It seemed to me with the concussion protocols and the essentially not being allowed to touch the quarterback even in college or the pros anymore.
Even when he's out of the pocket, they can't touch him.
Even when he's running for a score, it seems. But anyway, all this, football is going to go the way of the dodo bird stuff was over. I'm not going to let my kid play football. There was a crescendo there, maybe around the time of that concussion movie that came out. The story of Mike Webster. Yeah.
Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, I love that movie.
But is this still a conversation among parents about whether or not to let your kid play, football, pee-wee football to high school football and beyond?
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro. Answer line, text line 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment.
Because the duly elected California members of the California state legislature have taken up the matter of banning tackle football for kids under 12 years old to reduce brain injuries. Of course, that's the stated goal.
Dan, if it saves one life. Thank you.
Well, I mean, there's an interest in parents in California I don't know what the distribution of support is, but heightened concern over concussions, the growing popularity of flag football, driving the effort to impose the ban, which opponents say would take away the ability of parents to decide for their children's activities. In California, they can't even decide their kids' sex.
Right.
Put California youth players behind those in other states. There's an argument. And cut off some children from a source of exercise and an important after-school activity. Everybody just plays soccer. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know where do you come down. I recall during again the apex of this discussion. And I mean, terrible stories and suicides. Dave Duerson and Junior Seau and these athletes that donated their brains for research on this, and all the research on concussions that was being done. I think, if I remember the expose, it was mostly at Boston University, and they were going way back and looking at the incidence of head trauma among great athletes from a bygone era, like Lou Gehrig, and wondering if repeated concussions may increase the chances of early onset ALS, or if there's a significant correlation between repeated brain injury and ALS because of, again, high-profile football players who've been afflicted with that disease, including, of course, Mongo, but many others, too, over the years, Gleason at the Saints and so forth. So there was this conversation. It seemed like starting with the NFL, because that's where all the money is and that's where the profile is and that's where you're going to get opinion leadership, is that, well, we're going to make some changes. There's these improvements in equipment. And then again, you can't touch anybody, glorified flag football, at least for quarterbacks and so forth, although they still get injured. And then it went away. Am I wrong about that? Is this debate still exist in a meaningful way below the fold? It just isn't being covered? Or did it go away and now California is just an outlier trying to bring it back because they have, nothing better to do than figure out a way to intercede in between parents and kids some more?
Well, I will say there is a big push for girls flag football. I mean, we got a flag football team last year. And now the whole, they have their own conference. They play, almost every school has a girls flag football team. So there's a push for that. But going to
what
football,
does that have to do with tackle football?
No, well, they don't want girls to tackle, which I think is gender bias. But whatever. I think that tackle football, though, that issue's gone. This is California just trying to stir up something because they have nothing better to do. I mean, what's wrong with playing football? Both of my boys played football. One was all conference. I mean, of course, you're concerned as a parent, but they can get injured in any sport.
Right. And it was when we talked about this before, I recall making the point, which is just what the data says, that you have more incidents of concussions actually in soccer at the high school level than in football. But nonetheless, Chuck in Delavan, Wisconsin.
Thanks for taking my call. Something that I saw is, first of all, soccer's mindless. I played sports my whole life. Didn't go to college on a kicking scholarship. I went straight to the steel mills. I had to get on with my life. What I will say, though, is when I bumped into these other construction guys, superintendents, they were all middle linebackers and all fullbacks. And anybody that I bumped into and I talked to them and they were project managers, they were quarterbacks. So now what's going to happen if you don't let them kids play or sort themselves out? What's going to happen to our construction industry 20 years from now? What are we going to do?
Wait a second. Wait. So, I got to understand. So quarterbacks become project, and if you go into construction, quarterbacks become the project managers, and then the fullbacks and middle linebackers become what?
Construction superintendents.
They're the
They're
superintendents.
hard nosed. You got to get the project done, and you got to get everybody organized and pull in one direction. And it's just so. Anyway, true story.
What about linemen? What about offensive and defensive linemen? What do they become in construction?
They're the guys that go and suck out the porta potties.
Thanks for the contract. I've never made that connection between the position you play in football growing up and where you wind up if you go into the trades. It's very enlightening.
Got a text message. Dan and Amy, my son played football as the quarterback in grade school at St. Margaret Mary. Then went into Northside College Prep. They had no football team, so he's now a lacrosse player.
Yeah, I mean, those girls at St. Margaret Mary could really hit. I remember. Tony in Downers Grove.
Well, Dan, does anything from the left ever go away? It's like
yeah, good
politics.
question. Yeah.
It's just in there. It's rooted down there. It creeps forward, and the next thing you know, you're like, how did we get here? Dan, I have a quick question. Does the station play the COVID commercials and the electric vehicle commercials during your period just to upset you because those commercials are consistently airing during your show?
I don't know. I haven't even caught that. Thanks for the call, Tony.
I've heard them.
I think Travis Kelce asked us to play those COVID commercials.
Oh.
And you can't turn down Mr. Taylor Swift. Speaking of football players. I saw there was a real important think piece in the New York Post the other day about Travis Kelce and his 4,000 calorie a day diet and what his personal chef prepares for him to, keep the fuel tank at full for Travis Kelce. He'll be, featured this weekend. I don't know if Taylor Swift will make her way to the frozen tundra of Kansas City this weekend, but so I mean, I don't know. It's just maybe just the money, particularly now with NIL at the collegiate level. Maybe the money just washed all these concerns away for most people. Or maybe you just decide there's just so much. Football is so intertwined in American sport that there's some concerns, but we can take reasonable precautions and balance the risk, reduce the risk a little bit more. There's always going to be risk, and it's still a great sport and people want to play it, and of course, most importantly, people want to bet on it because that's what drives all professional sports and now college sports too. That's the most important thing, as long as you can bet on it. But I don't know. I just found this interesting. It just seemed to me coming out of left field, which is not unusual for California. But I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have it wrong, and that these aren't debates that are happening. We're happening in advance of and through this football season, and there's still movements afoot. Because remember, we had a dingbat legislator. Well, we got a lot of them. I should be more specific. Wasn't it Carol Sente that proposed the same thing in Illinois? Oh, yeah. Carol Sente up in Lake County when she was a Madigan roll call vote up there. She proposed something similar. There was this moment where this was bubbling up in legislators, particularly in failed states like California and Illinois, but nonetheless, it was talked about. And then it just went away. And I'm always curious when there's like these real debates and people get all exercise and nothing exactly happens and it goes away and then somebody brings it back. To Tony's point, yeah, you're right. I mean, the left is, if they fail the first time, they're always sort of looking for the opportunity to bring something back that they really want. And, of course, what they always want to do, as I mentioned, is push themselves in between parents and their kids because, that's where the state belongs.
You were right,
between
Dan,
parents and kids.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. January 25th, 2018, there was a bill proposed in Illinois that would ban kids under 12 from playing tackle football.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a thing. And, of course,
2018, 2019, they tried again, and that was it.
And, of course, it's like the COVIDians. Hey, tell me when you're going to move this legislation because then I'll cut and paste it and move the exact same thing. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure this is based on science and research and what the experts tell us. No, it's just based on, I saw California do it. I want to do it here where I am. That's how it actually comes down. Like, there's a lot of thought put into it, and research and debate and panels of experts, and they hash it out, and they conduct independent experimentation, and they talk to all the stakeholders. No. Hey, I saw Jane in Sacramento is doing it. I want to do it here. So, anyway. All right.
I love, we used to call it, oh my God, are you ready for this? Midget football.
Yeah.
Mount Prospect midget football. We used to, and then my sister was a cheerleader for them, and we'd go to those games. And
your sister was a cheerleader for the midgets, midget football teams.
Yeah, Mount Prospect Midgets Football. That's what it was called. I should.
You mean
find that
this is
picture.
this is like Park District?
Yeah, well, it was yeah, and then you'd play against, Meadows and Palatine, and it was a big league. But then somebody decided that it shouldn't be called Midget Football League.
Oh, yeah. That was a momentous momentous
But the
decision.
kids are so tiny; they're not like head-on tackles like the NFL. They're so close to the ground, and it's, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
they're
thought it
just
was
falling
fun.
around.
Yeah.
So what age did your sister start cheerleading?
It was one season she lasted. I think it was in the.
Speaking
it
of-
was had to be in the 80s. Definitely in the 80s.
Speaking of head trauma, and you did not cheerlead?
I did not. No, I did at middle school, but not for football. No, I decided not to do that.
And you didn't want to be a pioneer and try out for the football team?
No, I did not. I had no interest in doing that.
But you were a tomboy.
Yes, I was. I sure was.
And you just played basketball and volleyball?
Yeah, but that's aggressive. I think I have a lot of testosterone. I mean, you have to be so aggressive if you play basketball and volleyball. So yes, I decided to do that. And I had no interest in playing football. Zero. But flag football now, it's all the girls are doing it. It's the cool thing to do, and they have really cool, sleek uniforms, and people go to their games. They play in the main stadium, and
Well, with all this gender bending, the whole thing's going to wind up being just like a powder puff league.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where this is going. George in Naperville.
Yeah, Dan, as long as they don't ban youth golfers from making business contacts.
Yeah, no, I would rally people against that. Yeah, measure. Yeah, that's how I got to this position. Yeah, that's good. Very good, George. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When your home or business has an insurance claim, the next step is very important. The claim process with insurance can be tedious, hard to understand, and difficult to navigate. You need someone working for you. You need a licensed claim adjuster. Why? The insurance company will send out their inspectors that work for them, get paid by them, and represent them, not you.
This is Dan Lights from Crosscom. We inspect your property, file your claim, negotiate the damages, and maximize your settlement with your insurance company. If we complete the repairs approved by your insurance company, our service is free. Crosscom Public Adjusters has turned denied claims into approved claims. We've also increased insurance claims anywhere from 23 to 1,000%. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at crosscominc.com. That's crosscominc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
all right, they have changed the name from Mount Prospect Midget Football League to the Mount Prospect Youth Football League.
Oh, that's wonderful.
In case you're keeping score.
Yeah. By the way, people are asking just how much testosterone you have. So we're going to have her, Amy, send over to Low T, and we'll find out. We'll let you know.
Please. Sometimes I think it's too much. All right. Let me tell you. You know why I have a lot of stamina, Dan? It's because I take Balance of Nature, don't you know? 31 whole fruits and vegetables in those bad boys. They take the fruits and veggies and turn them into a powder after an advanced vacuum cold process, which stabilizes the maximum nutrient content. Real food, real science, real nutrition, and feel good that you're doing something for yourself because you're not getting enough fruits and veggies on your own, and that's where Balance of Nature comes in. 3 fruit capsules, 3 vegetable capsules. That's what I take every day. I crack them open in warm water, and voila, I'm ready to go. Be one of the cool kids. Order your bottles of fruits and veggies today. 800-246-8751. 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago. First timers get free shipping and a bottle of fiber and spice, which a lot of people love. So that's something to look forward to. 800-246-8751. Discount code Chicago.
Have you been struggling to find an easy, safe, and secure document scanning solution for Salesforce.com, Microsoft 365, SharePoint, or OnBase by Highland? Your struggle is now over, and it's time to get your documents and operations into the 21st century with IoT Smart Connected Scanning. It's easy to turn physical paper into digital documents and have them directly uploaded to the cloud with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. And you don't need a degree in computing or IT to make it happen. Using QR code technology uniquely configured for your specific business, anyone can set the IoT Smart Connected Scanning device up in 5 minutes or less, saving your organization money and valuable time. Remote employees can even capture documents and send them safely and seamlessly. Organize documents efficiently and securely with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. To see a demo or to order now, go to ready4idt.com. That's ready4idt.com. Use promo code SMART and receive 10% off your order. IDT, putting paper in its place.
Amy Jacobson here on behalf of all of us here at AM 560 The Answer. I wanted to take just a minute to say thank you to each and every one of you who's participated in our annual Food for the Poor campaign over the past month. Because of your generosity, we've raised nearly $200,000 to provide food for an entire year for over 4,700 children in Latin America and the Caribbean. We especially want to thank the many business benefactors who supported this campaign. This year, when you hear their commercials airing on this station, please support their businesses as a way of thanking them for their generosity. And just because the Christmas season is over, that doesn't mean that the need has gone away. You can still make a tax-deductible gift of any amount to Food for the Poor by visiting 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. That's 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. And on behalf of all of us here at AM 560 The Answer and at Food for the Poor, thanks again for your generosity.
AM 560, The Answer.
So Bill Belichick just got fired.
Oh, he did?
Reported. Yeah, it was coming.
Yeah.
Boy, it's a bad week for 70-year-olds. Nick Saban retires. Bill Belichick fired. Pete Carroll fired.
Oh, Pete Carroll got fired? I thought he resigned.
Nah, he's gone. Got fired. 70-year. I mean, you know, the good news is it's still a good week for 70-year-old plus politicians. Anyway, just sticking on the sports thing for a second.
Yes, sir.
Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show. And apparently he's been sidelined for the rest of this season of the Pat McAfee show. I mean, I don't know if it means anything. Because of the thing he said, the joke he made about Jimmy Kimmel being on the Epstein list. But anyway, you know, you don't have to hate Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You don't have to hate Aaron Rodgers as much anymore because he's a Jet now, not a Packer. And, you know, he's a little bit of a granola kind of new age crystal reading goof.
Who sees aliens? Remember that when you played that clip?
Yeah.
The alien encounter that I have. Well, he's from Northern California. He's kind of hippy dippy, you know.
Yeah, he is. But he at least he's an independent thinker. He certainly was during COVID. That's a good example. And he's also had a pretty good riff in his last appearance on the McAfee show for the season. I mean, he's a punter. I mean, this guy's got a lot of balls. Anyway. And I don't really understand.
Onions, Dan.
And I don't really understand ESPN anyway. It generally sucks. Programming's terrible. But so Aaron Rodgers is the only thing that makes that McAfee show interesting to me. Anyway, all that is to say, Aaron Rodgers on media and media cancellation in light of the firestorm, manufactured as it was mainly because of his position on COVID and the vax mandates and all that. The firestorm after his Kimmel joke and how media cancellation works.
This is the game plan of the media, and this is what they do. They try and cancel, you know, and it's not just me. It's nowhere near just me. I mean, if you look at all the different people who've been censored from the internet especially during COVID, the canceling that went on, the censorship.
Yeah, well,
What
okay,
happened?
that there's more to it than that, but he sort of lays it out. But you know, he addresses this sort of stuff straight away, which is helpful. So anyway, I just wanted to get him in since he's on the outs. Coming up at 6:36, we'll update you on the situation with the provisions for migrants in Chicago, in New York. What comes next? 6:36.
Yeah, they had to cancel sports yesterday, 2 days in a row, girls basketball and boys basketball in New York, too. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
33 degrees at 6:30 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Scott. GOP candidates Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis held their final debate in Iowa last night, while frontrunner Donald Trump held his own town hall. Haley touting her record on immigration as governor of South Carolina.
I will tell you that when I was governor of South Carolina, we passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. Obama sued us over it, and we won.
Haley and DeSantis argued about abortion, foreign policy, and other issues. Governor DeSantis calling for more support for Israel's war with Hamas.
We got to support Israel in word and in deed, in public and in private, and they need to be able to finish the job.
Both called out Donald Trump for refusing to participate in that debate, but he held his own forum and stayed quiet on his choice for vice president.
Well, I can't tell you that, really. I mean, I know who it's going to be.
Give us a hint.
We'll do another show sometime.
The Iowa caucuses start this coming Monday. South Africa presenting its case today in the International Court of Justice, claiming Israel has committed genocide in Gaza. Israel calls the allegations baseless. Alaska Airlines facing new trouble with a passenger jet. Last week, a door seal blew out of an Alaska Airlines plane during mid-flight. Yesterday, an Alaska Airlines flight from Washington State to Hawaii was redirected to Oregon due to a major issue with radios. Nick Saban moving on to the next chapter of his life. The Alabama head football coach announcing his retirement. Students at the university last night paying respect to Saban.
It is very emotional. I feel like Nick Saban's definitely left a legacy here, and I've grown up him coaching my whole life, and he's definitely very inspiring to everybody here on campus, and I hope that whoever follows him up is going to do just a great job.
Here in Chicago, we're gearing up for another winter storm about to hit. National Weather Service says the snow could begin falling late tonight, up to 6 inches through Friday, and gusty winds up to 50 miles an hour. There's a new taxpayer-funded shelter in Chicago now accepting migrants. The shelter located at the site of a former CVS in the Little Village neighborhood. Governor Pritzker was there and downplayed the tension between his administration and the city of Chicago and the rest of the state over directing buses to Chicago.
In general, you can't tell a group of people or an aircraft that it can't come somewhere. On the other hand, there are lots of things that I think would be a significant deterrent, and they already are working.
The family of a high school wrestler is taking the IHSA to federal court over the agency denying the student's eligibility. Harrison Condor is a senior at Montini Catholic in Lombard. His family says he transferred to the Lombard school after struggling with grades at larger Downers Grove North High School. Bulls overtime winners over the Rockets, 124-119. Blackhawks take on Winnipeg tonight. The Bears moving on from one of their offensive coordinators, firing Luke Getsy and 4 other offensive assistants yesterday. College hoops, Northwestern a win over Penn State, while the number 10 Fighting Illini will try to get back in the win column hosting Michigan State. The News is a service of Crosscom Public Adjusters. If your home or business has an insurance claim, Crosscom will help you get what you need and have coming to you. They have helped thousands. Crosscom Public Adjusters. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
If you listen to the mainstream media and the Democrats, you'd think it was a sin to be black and conservative. Well, John Anthony blows up that perception every week on Black and Right. Join John this Saturday afternoon at 4 when he pushes back against the left and its regressive, progressive agenda that tries to dictate how people should think or feel about politics. Listen to Black and Right this Saturday afternoon at 4 right here on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. Antony Blinken traveled to Ramallah this week to repeat demands for a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This ignores the evidence of October 7 in both Gaza and the West Bank that Palestinians are only interested in a single state and the annihilation of Israel. Any discussions of a Palestinian state are useless as long as the Palestinians refuse to accept Israel as a permanent Jewish state on present borders. The Gazans just proved on October 7 that they are far more interested in committing genocide in Israel than in peace. So too are Palestinians in the West Bank, where support for Hamas after the massacres has become nearly universal. The U.S. should make that futility crystal clear to Mahmoud Abbas. Only that will prompt new policies within their populations, new policies that will deal rationally with the reality of Israel and the necessity of accommodation. Until they do, the Israelis have no partner for any two-state solution.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu.
Imagine what your future looks like. Is the picture a little blurry? Hey, it's Sean Thompson here for Alpha Wealth Group. When we look ahead, we're visualizing where we want to be, and for retirement, that can be hard without a written financial plan. Tom Fortino of Alpha Wealth Group can help you bring your retirement picture into focus. For decades, Tom has been crafting customized financial strategies. His goal is to help you protect your savings, grow your wealth, and create an income strategy you cannot outlive. If you're nearing or already in retirement, it's time to get your plan on paper. So bring your readers and let's take a look at it closely. Call Tom at 630-934-1855 and schedule a complimentary retirement consultation. There is no cost, there is no obligation. This is a chance to get a clearer view of your retirement. The number again is 630-934-1855 or visit alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings right here on AM 560 The Answer.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
Need to hire quality candidates fast? You need Indeed. Our video interview tool makes it easy and effortless to meet with candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
6:37. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of Progressive Insurance, making it easy to save money when you bundle your auto policy with home, condo, or renters. You'll earn a multi-policy discount. Easy to bundle, easy to save. Visit progressive.com. That's progressive.com. Inbound Kennedy, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange is a 21-minute commute. Ike on the outbound side, disabled vehicle left lane blocked at Laramie. Stevenson in already 45 from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Outbound Stevenson, we've got a person on the roadway, outbound at LaGrange Road, police on the way, and construction bottling things up on the outbound side of the Stevenson between Lamont Road and Joliet Road. A multi-vehicle accident on the inbound Dan Ryan. It's in the locals, inbound, just north of 31st. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast from our QC Kinetics Weather Center. Cloudy this morning, intervals of clouds and sunshine through the afternoon, high of 32. Cloudy and 34 right now, officially at O'Hare. Your next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, as you've heard Mike Scott reporting, the migrant shelter that was set up at that old CBS in Little Village is up and running.
Oh, yes.
It's exciting. 100 families are in. 100 more are coming. That's the reporting there. This was set up back on November 27th, or announced on November 27th, that the state would convert the old CVS site into a migrant shelter.
With tents out in front. They have two big white tents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh-oh, there's tents.
We're moving 200 people, families and others into it. It's phenomenal what we've been able to do in a very short period of time to accommodate very young children, making sure these children have a place they can play even in a very difficult situation, said your governor, Jelly Belly. Everything is working out well. This moves them away from the hotel at O'Hare they were staying at. And look, it's a whole new little community, according to proponents like New Life Center Director of Community Care, Eduardo Fuentes. We're offering classes. We're offering trauma-based education. What's that? Cultural training. We're offering anything that has to do with being able to build their knowledge around the culture, around Chicago, around the United States. Sounds like they're staying.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636, type in DA, then a quick comment. Yeah, because eventually I think they'll probably give them driver's licenses, and then eventually they'll be able to vote, don't you think?
Well, here's the thing. As there is this movement afoot in sanctuary cities and sanctuary states to normalize all of this, you're hearing pronouncements from presidential candidates like the likely Republican presidential nominee, Donald Trump, saying something very different as he did last night during his Fox News town hall.
We have millions and millions of people here. It is not sustainable. Did you see in New York City where they're getting the regular students out and they're putting migrants in their place? We are going to have the largest deportation effort in the history of our country. We're bringing everybody back to where they came from. We have no choice. We have no choice.
God love Donald Trump.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. The D word has been used. Now, DeSantis said something similar, and he's lodged the criticism of Trump you've heard before from DeSantis about Mexico paying for the wall. Really an ancillary issue. I don't know why.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't think that has much currency, but okay. So that's the choice that DeSantis is making. But on the deportation issue, he did raise another point.
We will build a wall. We will actually have Mexico pay for it in the way that I thought Donald Trump was. We're going to charge fees on remittances that workers send to foreign countries. Billions of dollars will build the wall. He also promised record deportations. Donald Trump deported fewer people than Barack Obama did when he was president. Biden's let in 8 million people just in 4 years. They all have to go back. We have to enforce the rule of law in this country. Think about what's happening to our country. Just this week, we saw the news that a school in Brooklyn, New York, had the kids stay home. They were not able to go to school, told you can't go get an in-person education. Why? Because the city's commandeering the school to house illegal aliens in it. Talk about putting Americans last. You're putting these kids out of an education because you can't control the border. Biden has failed in this endeavor. He has not taken care that the laws of this country be faithfully executed. Do not trust Nikki Haley with illegal immigration. That's like having the fox guard the hen house. She's on tape at the Aspen Institute. She'll say she didn't say it. She was chastising conservatives, saying it's disrespectful to illegal aliens to say that they're criminals. They're violating the law. It's disrespectful when people come to this country illegally and impose burdens on our communities and run drugs into this country. That's what's disrespectful. She's weak on immigration. She's bankrolled by people who want open borders, and she said there shouldn't be a limit on immigration. You should work with corporate CEOs.
Thanks, Governor.
That is pale pastels. That
Governor,
is warmed
thank
over
you so much.
corporatism.
So, Governor Haley.
So DeSantis is taking a pretty hard line, too, and although he didn't use the word deportations, they have to go 8 million, they have to go back. That's saying the same thing. So there's at least rhetorical emphasis being placed on this, maybe newfound emphasis because of this situation at James Madison High School in New York. Maybe this is an inflection point.
And I just loved that the parents came out to protest. So what happened was at 4:30 in the morning, well, there was chatter on Tuesday that, bad weather is here and that they're going to move the kids. They moved the families at 4:30 in the morning, sent out an email letting parents know that there's going to be remote learning, which, by the way, more than half the teachers didn't show up for that remote learning. So just so you know. But here's the deal. People, community leaders, a state rep warned them, don't build that tent there. It's in a bad spot. It's really windy. So it was windy and then water started pooling up. That's why they decided to move them into the school. But why? This just shows, and Mayor Adams was doubling down on this, that they care more about the needs of illegals than our kids' educational needs. And shame on him. And he visited the shelter, and this is going to happen again, folks.
When you have these emergencies, you utilize all of your assets, and our school buildings are part of our assets. They're the focal points of our community.
And parents, of course, were not happy.
Why at the cost of our children? Why at the health of our children? Because we're bringing the kids back and we're not sure what was used, what was sanitized. There's drops, there are knives, there are needles, there's guns.
One of the teachers did show up, she said good morning, gave him an assignment, said goodbye.
It is very disruptive when you come and take over our school. And it's not even fair to the migrants as well. We told you that this is not sustainable and we need a better sustainable plan.
Why not? Like, half of the buildings downtown in New York are empty. Why not take them there as an emergency shelter? Why? I mean, they had to cancel a girls' basketball game, boys' basketball practice, and then no one got to learn that day.
No one got to learn that day.
Well,
it's sort of saying it's like the same thing in CPS, and that's different from which days. Well, we have all these half or more than half empty schools in CPS in Chicago. Well, why not utilize them?
Right.
I mean, what is the difference? I mean, there is no for those parents and for Chicago parents, families. I'd say the same thing, right? The position is that there's no difference between migrants and those families and your family, and there's no prioritization of your family over their family because there's no difference. No one can be illegal. Everybody is welcome here on their own terms and on their own schedule. And so we have to accommodate them just like we accommodate you. So sometimes we're going to have to take evasive action to make sure everybody gets accommodated. A little hiccup. But your kids will be back in school, and they'll be back in school with the migrants, and the games will be rescheduled, and everything's fine, as Eric Adams said. You just have to make accommodations because, again, your government doesn't owe you anything more than it owes people who have come here illegally. Do you understand?
Well, they're taxpayer citizens that have a right to their schools, and they were locked out. Teachers couldn't even go in and get their stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That is not the philosophy of the powers that be that have been chosen by the people in New York or the people in Chicago or the people in Illinois.
But you keep doing this crap, you don't think you're going to take a blue state and turn it red? I mean, honestly.
Nobody's in charge. New Yorkers are very compassionate people. But they're losing their patience. They don't have any patience anymore.
Well, you better find more patience. Because the political leadership is not losing theirs. They just want more money. Jason in Northlake, you're in Chicago's Morning Answer.
All of these abstract ideas that the liberals always win the arguments on, it's no longer abstract. It's practical. You understand what happens when you defund the police, when you have open borders and all these things. And this is everything that these people voted for. I have zero sympathy, and New York's not going to turn red, nor is Chicago, nor is Los Angeles. It's going to stay blue as the day is long.
Thanks for the call. You think is there any indication that suburban voters in Chicago, I mean, please inform my viewpoint on this, have been chastened by the reality of this previous abstraction, as Jason said? This is wonderful. Get to Chicago. Get out of our community. It's great. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for
Get to
stopping by.
Chicago. Does that change does that mean anybody's attitude has changed? Anybody's
or the way they
votes
vote
are going to change? I'm not persuaded that it does.
I mean, why are our kids always paying the price, though? That's what bothers me.
Corey in Woodlawn.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. I'm wondering why all of these individuals are parroting the same thing. It's just theft. They're after your property, and they're just using these migrants to do it. And the theft that's going to be pushed through these NGOs are going to be jaw-dropping. Like the woman that just stole $100 million and gave it to herself. Multiple homes in Miami, Denver. I mean, this is going to get out of control fast. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, Corey. Well, I mean, again, the good news is in Chicagoland, you don't actually own your home. You just think you do. Right. Your home is the state's collateral to finance unfinanceable public sector pensions. So, as far as I'm concerned, the state has de facto seized your home. It's just doing it in slow motion. So why not provide a little bit of help for those recalcitrant Chicagoland residents who haven't quite opened their doors to our friends who've come from other countries to stay here? Maybe we'll give you a little nudge, just a little nudge. You're going to.
I know this is catty, but those 4,000 students at J. Madison High School, that's the size of Lane Tech, okay? Can you imagine, like, telling 4,000 kids you're staying home? But they have to go through metal detectors, show an ID. And these migrants just walked in. I mean, Lord knows what they were carrying or what they had.
Well, Lord knows what the indigenous students carry in or have. 4,000 students. Can you imagine telling them to stay home? Yeah, I can imagine that.
They did. Yeah.
We did that to 1.85 million in Illinois for 2 years.
I know, and they know remote learning doesn't work. They know that it wasn't effective. It actually exacerbated a situation that was already happening when it comes to reading levels and math levels.
It's one day.
Yes. Oh, yeah, right. It's one day, but guess what, Dan? More storms are coming. So what are they going to do? Are they going to choose a different high school this time?
Tom and Oswego.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. First, I like to say, to answer a lot of questions, they don't care what you think. Now, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm a DeSantis supporter, somebody that can get in and change things. But and I also have a son-in-law, I think you know, and a Mexican citizen, can't get over here to live with my daughter and grandson because the system is so messed up that first of all, the politicians need to stop saying we're going to deport 8 million people. That's not going to happen. I don't care, and I don't care who is president. That just won't happen. What they need to do is say we're going to stop the flow, period. If I was president, I would first of all have a meeting with all these other leaders and say, guess what? A certain date, our border is closed. Or just don't even give a date. Just say the border's closed until we can get a handle on what the hell is going on in this country. Right now, it's chaos, and that's what the politicians want on one side. And it will continue until it devolves into something that I don't think a lot of people even think is going to happen. Well, I have enough common sense, and I can predict what's going to happen, and it's going to get ugly. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, Tom. I don't think stopping or slowing the flow is good enough. It sounds like something that Tony Fauci would come up with.
You want
to well, yes. I mean, you need to make the policy changes that are easy to make, that can be done by executive order if you can't do it quickly through Congress, depending on the composition of that body. The kind of policy changes that have been advanced in H.R. 2 by House Republicans and passed. Remain in Mexico, no asylum application if you don't come through a legal port of entry, so forth. Safe third country with Mexico. And you need to start dictating terms to AMLO rather than allowing him to dictate terms to the United States, which is what the situation is now.
Send out a list of demands, please.
But I do agree with Thomas saying it has to be a little bit more practical. I mean, they all have to go back and mass deportation, and to actually implement something in a sensible way and an effective way, you have to bring people along with the stages, because it's not going to be like a deportation squad that's millions strong that's going to be turning over rocks and knocking on doors throughout the country, all deployed from some central office in D.C. That's not going to happen. But what can happen is you do things in a sensible, methodical, sequential way, like something that I'm always going to. There is no disagreement about deporting people in this country who've committed crimes, particularly violent crimes, in addition to being here illegally. And yet every year you get the fiscal year reports out of ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, and you have the testimony from ICE directors before congressional committees talking about there were this many people that committed a DUI offense, this many people that committed an assault, a rape, a murder, an attempted murder, that are in this country illegal by our estimates. Why? That is a universe that is in the tens of thousands, at minimum, tens of thousands. Show me that whatever you set up, whoever you put in charge of this operation, can affect that, like names. And you know what? Do this like we used to do COVID briefings. I want to hear. I want a border security briefing on a daily basis, giving us updates on, for example, this operation to remove people in this country who've been convicted of violent offenses or serious offenses. In addition to being here illegally, they are out, and we are going to deploy these resources to achieve this objective on this timeline, and we're going to give you daily updates. We're going to have the full phalanx of the experts and the agency heads and so forth, and we want this to be televised from the briefing room the way that COVID briefings were. And I would say the same thing to any state governor that would want to do this, like an Abbott or a DeSantis. You should do this. That focuses the American people's attention on the seriousness of this matter, and it also provides a process of accountability that this isn't just going to be speechifying at hearings and at debates and press conferences, that you're giving me concrete things or you're having to explain why concrete things are happening. I mean, use the COVID model. Why not?
Got a text message. Dan and Amy, the migrants may not immediately vote, but they will force rapid changes to the legislative districts they're pouring into.
Sean and Darian.
Yeah, I'm a Trumpy through and through, and I have my reasons. But I do love DeSantis as well. I think he would do just as good of a job. It just isn't his time. But that was a great point you just brought up about the criminals. They should go. There shouldn't even be an issue. But the thing with Trump and DeSantis, both saying that they would deport, you don't think that would stem the flow in a very big way because they know they will do something? They will. So the open flow, Biden welcomed everybody. Come on in, But now they hear the word that, hey, these guys are going to shut us down. They're not going to make thousands of miles of trips to get here. And this is my comment. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Look, I mean, sending the signal and then quickly initiating policy changes that indicate you're serious would absolutely dampen the flow, slow the flow, if you will. So that's something, that will be an added benefit of making the policy changes. But then you have to do something that is forward-looking, not just defensive, because of the situation we're now. This has to be an offensive operation, not just a defensive one.
Right, but when they hear Trump say we're going to have mass deportations, that message is getting back to these homelands where they're deciding, oh, should we do this or should we go now? What should we do?
Well, it'll matter a lot more if he's president than it does out of power. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Well, I've been taking it for some time. We saw the ad, and we thought we would give it a try. And I noticed after the first month, we just felt better. I told my doctor, too, and she said, this sounds like a really good product for you to be taking. We plan to take it for life.
I ran this by my doctor. I always run it by her, everything I take, and I told her I've been taking this for a while. Is this okay to take? She goes, oh, this is wonderful for you to take. Keep taking it. She goes, I approve this. This is very good. So she said, yes. This is one thing you can take that's very good. I'm not going to stop taking it out into nature.
Step into the new year with a new you. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
AM 560, The Answer.
By the way, I've been informed that the Illinois Freedom Caucus, these downstate conservative legislators, have actually called for Pritzker, since he's issuing all these proclamations, 18 proclamations in a row, emergency proclamations to give himself more power, more spending power over this migrant matter, that they've called for daily data dumps and COVID-style briefings. So we're on the same wavelength. Good for them. It's not going to happen because they don't have any power, but at least they're making the public call. More people should do that.
All right. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:07, we'll be joined by columnist David Marcus to talk a little bit more about last night's competing debates/town halls and the issues like migration that are at the fore at 7:07.
And right now it's 7 a.m. WIND Chicago.
Making
making the case for a second term before the first 2024 contest. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
We're going to have the greatest economy in the world, which we don't right now.
Former President Trump at a Fox News town hall.
A guy like Biden, there's nothing he can run on. Everything it's turned out badly.
Including the record surge of illegal immigration, which the former president says he would fix.
We are going to have the largest deportation effort in the history of our country.
He remains the Republican frontrunner 4 days before the Iowa caucuses, and he reacted to Chris Christie dropping out of the race and what Christie was caught on mic saying about Nikki Haley.
She doesn't have what it takes. She'll be creamed in the election. And I mean, I know her very well, and I happen to believe that Chris Christie is right. That's one of the few things he's been right about, actually.
Now, Ron DeSantis also took a swipe at Haley in their debate on CNN.
Nikki Haley is basically a carbon copy of what Biden is.
Now, she called DeSantis a liar and desperate, making the case Republicans should choose her and not former President Trump.
I don't have vengeance. I don't have vendettas. I don't take things personally. For me, it's very much about no drama, no whining, and getting results.
Today, former President Trump goes back to court, though a judge in New York ruled he cannot help his lawyers give closing arguments at the Trump Organization's civil fraud trial. As Israel's war rages against Hamas in Gaza, where 23,000 Palestinians have been killed, South Africa is taking Israel to court today at the UN's International Court of Justice, accusing it of genocide.
They are killed in their homes, in places where they seek shelter, in hospitals, in schools.
Lawyer Adila Hassim opening the case. South Africa says it condemns the actions of Hamas as well. Israeli President Isaac Herzog called the accusations atrocious and preposterous.
It's Fox's Jonathan Savage. There is big news in the NFL. Bill Belichick is out in New England, leaving after 24 seasons. The last one was his worst with just 4 wins. Belichick led the Patriots, though, to 6 Super Bowl championships. America's listening to Fox News.
7:02, 33 degrees in Chicago. On AM 560, The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Northern Illinois gearing up for another shot of winter. National Weather Service says snow could begin falling tonight, up to 6 inches. From tonight to Saturday morning, wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour. A United Airlines flight from Sarasota, Florida to Chicago made an emergency landing safely and in Tampa. It was all due to a door indicator light. The website FlightAware says the plane was an Airbus A319. New taxpayer-funded shelter in Chicago is now accepting migrants. The shelter, located at the site of a former CVS in the Little Village neighborhood. The governor was asked yesterday about bringing uniformity statewide and dealing with bus drop-offs. The governor says right now that's not possible.
Can't tell a group of people or an aircraft that it can't come somewhere. On the other hand, there are lots of things that I think would be a significant deterrent, and they already are working.
Grundy County Board Chairman Chris Balkema pushed through a resolution that makes Grundy a non-sanctuary county.
Not only is Grundy County non-sanctuary, as reflected in December, but in January, we will do everything we can do to proactively move the immigrants on down to the intended destination, a so-called city that's going to welcome them. That's great. That's the city of Chicago in our case.
Balkema says there's a danger of human trafficking when migrants are dropped off at any rural or suburban truck stop in the state.
But what happens if a bus drops off 50 people at a bus stop or at a truck stop at 3 in the morning and the bus driver takes off and we've got 60 people there standing in blankets? What do we do?
The county's also making it clear they will take no grant money from the state to address migrants that end up in the county. A trial date is set for the suspected Highland Park shooter. However, the current date is being pushed back. Lake County judge canceling the February 26th trial date for Robert Cremo III. He'll set a new trial date on February 21st. Chicago sports. Bulls beat the Rockets in overtime, 124-119. Blackhawks and Jets later on tonight. The Bears are moving on from their offensive coordinator, firing Luke Getsy, confirming they're bringing back head coach Matt Eberflus. College basketball found the Northwestern Wildcats a winner over Penn State, 76-72, while the Fighting Illini take on Michigan State tonight. The News is a service of Crosscom Public Adjusters. Handling an insurance claim for your home and business is difficult. Crosscom will help you maximize your claim and get what you need. They've helped thousands. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
November 2nd, 2020, marked the 100th anniversary of the first commercial radio broadcast. We're still here, and we're bigger and better than ever. You can still listen to us over this great radio station, but now there are no limitations. Your smartphone is now your smart radio. Listen to us online on the app, TuneIn.com, iHeartRadio, and Odyssey.com. Your smart speaker can find us too. With radio, there is no separation anxiety. We're always on. AM 560, The Answer.
Your pet isn't just a pet, they're part of your family. Most of the pet food on the market is cooked at high temperatures, which kills nutrients. A scoop of Dynavite is a 3-in-1 daily supplement, adding back key nutrients to your pup's health. Try Dynavite for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Learn more at dinovite.com/radio. That's Dynavite.com/radio.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynavite.
Progressive presents 10 things on a contractor's to-do list that are harder than getting a commercial auto insurance quote. Bidding a new client, giving an accurate estimate, finding affordable materials, getting a client to pay you for work you already did, getting a client to pay you, period, securing permits and workers and tools, getting those workers and tools to work together, and finding the perfect pair of overalls. Pockets, baby. But the easiest thing on a small business owner's to-do list? Seeing if you can save on commercial auto insurance. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms and conditions.
Chronic pain, it can ruin your marriage, bring on depression. It's no way to live. But now there's a non-surgical way to get rid of that hip, back, and joint pain. It's called QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative non-surgical pain relief. Did you know that your body has what it needs to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue? And QC Kinetics can make it happen. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. Hundreds of board-certified QC Kinetic providers have treated tens of thousands of satisfied patients all over America. People like you and me with back pain, hip pain, any pain associated with arthritis or an injury. Folks, this is not a Band-Aid. This is a revolutionary treatment that can get you moving again. Get your life back. And listen, it's non-surgical. So fight back against the pain. Take the first step now. Call QC Kinetics. This is the number, 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955.
7:07, and let's get an update on the roads in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. All a service of CharlesEquipment.com, keeping the lights on when the unexpected storms cause loss of power at your business. Get help quickly at CharlesEquipment.com. Kennedy inbound 30 minutes, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike at 45 this morning, inbound from 390 into the old post office. On the outbound side of the Ike, a disabled vehicle blocking a left lane. That is at Laramie. I-55 had accident cleared near Route 126. That's on the northbound side. Stevenson outbound road work is jamming things up between Lamont Road and Joliet Road, and the Ryan inbound at a half hour, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast in our QC Kinetics Weather Center. Here's Steve Williams.
Cloudy this morning, then partly sunny, high 32. Cloudy, wet snow late tonight, a coating to an inch, low 26. We're in a storm watch for tomorrow morning. Cloudy, snow, accumulations 3 to 6 inches, the high tomorrow 35. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
34 at O'Hare, next news 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So we've been talking about last night's competing GOP presidential events, the Trump town hall on Fox and the DeSantis Nikki Haley debate on CNN with Chris Christie's departure. But it seems to me, as we were talking about just before the break, that this moment at James Madison High School in New York, where migrants displaced indigenous students, maybe is an inflection point in this whole discussion of migrants, particularly as mayors, sanctuary city mayors and sanctuary state governors are still unwilling to contemplate a policy reversal. They just, again, are beating their tin cups for more cash from the state or the federal government or both. And maybe this is where Republicans should be pressing down on the issue, as Trump and DeSantis did to varying degrees yesterday, as the left attempts their latest January 6th misdirection with the speeches that Biden gave on Friday at Valley Forge and the other day in Charleston, and what they're continuing to try to do with these hearings that turn into circuses, like the Oversight Committee hearing yesterday. You say Hunter Biden or Biden Incorporated, and I say Jan 6th. Maybe if you've got enough attention of enough urban denizens and suburban residents, maybe this is something where it should be all hands on deck, which is maybe why House Speaker Mike Johnson, despite the complications with his narrow majority and the number of big spenders in that narrow majority, should have held a little bit faster rather than cut the spending deal that he cut with Schumer and by extension the White House. Maybe. For more on this, let's ask our friend David Marcus. David Marcus, of course, columnist, formerly living in New York. He upgraded to West Virginia. He's also the author of the book Charade, The COVID Lies That Crushed a Nation. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So what is your hand? I mean, especially since you lived so much of your life in New York, give us your sense of what's happening in that city, if you could distinguish it from like our own in Chicago. The politics of this. Is this the moment I'm suggesting it might be, where this should be the singular focus of Republican ranks to capture the angst and frustration and loss of patience of voters across the spectrum?
I mean, look, I hope so. I think that one difference between New York and Chicago is that New York City went from 1993 until 2013, I believe, without a Democrat being mayor, which in retrospect, you think about that, that's wild, right? It was Rudy Giuliani and then Michael Bloomberg, and the city worked. The city was great. It was fantastic. Clearly under Bill de Blasio, it fell apart. And Eric Adams, unfortunately, is beholden to the same Democrat Party machine that de Blasio was. But listen, this was ridiculous. I mean, imagine being a parent and being told, your kid has to leave school. They went out the back door to clear the school out, and then school buses arrived full of migrants to go in to this school. I mean, it is absolutely infuriating. I have a column up in the Daily Mail about it, and I end that column by paraphrasing a very famous New York Daily News headline from the 1970s that said, Gerald Ford dropped dead. Joe Biden is saying to New York City school kids, drop dead. The migrants are more important than you.
Yeah, and same with Eric Adams. And I love the parents that were out there standing in the rain, screaming at I mean, I know it's not the migrants' fault, but she was so mad. She's like, what are you ever going to leave? What do? You feel good about yourselves that you're here? But is that going to maybe, convince some New Yorkers to vote for Trump or vote Republican in the future, in the near future?
As it turns out, and some people have made some political hay of this, Midwood, that neighborhood in southeast Brooklyn that I lived fairly close to, that's a red neighborhood. But people don't understand. Staten Island, for example, is very red.
Yeah.
New York City has a Republican congresswoman in Nicole Maliotakis. So, yeah, again, it happens slowly. But yeah, at a certain point when the subways are so bad and the crime is so bad and your kids can't go to school. I mean, look, you saw Lee Zeldin get within 4 points of Kathy Hochul in 2022. He was supposed to lose that race by 20. So yeah, there's a point at which New Yorkers start to wake up.
But, you know, it's sort of a race against the clock, isn't it? Because the philosophy on the other side, as nicely encapsulated by Yvette Clarke, who's also a congresswoman from Brooklyn, Democrat, is, we need the migrants. I need them for redistricting, which, you're not supposed to say out loud, but you did.
But even they're divided. I mean, on Fox News last night, they had a Democrat assemblywoman from that area who was really calling Biden out, right? We've seen Adams do that to some extent. We've seen other Democrats, Henry Cuellar in Texas.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, and the border is one of them, but on the border, on Israel, on some of the culture war stuff, like men and women's sports, there are real fissures in the Democrat Party. And there were a lot of Democrats who thought that they elected Joe Biden to be, 1999 Joe Biden, a moderate, a reasonable Democrat. And he's turned out to be, arguably to the left of AOC.
Yeah, I mean, it's always just strikes me when a party regular doesn't understand what's happened to the party to which they affiliate. And what you're saying is, I mean, maybe this is mainly independents, but some more moderate Democrats, like some of the office holders you mentioned, they don't appreciate who's in charge of their party. I mean, could it be any more clear?
No, look, I think that's right. I mean, I think the transformation of John Fetterman, for example, over the past 3 months, has just been remarkable. I mean, on almost every issue. And I think I think he's very smart because I disagree. I disagree with you. I'll disagree with your point. I don't think it is just independence. I think that on this crazy lefty stuff, the average Democrat has sort of been rolling their eyes and saying, well, that's silly, but what's the difference? And now there is a difference, right? Now the border is overrun. Now the sort of trans issue is hitting almost every parent's school, and these people are waking up. And I think Democrats see there's a lane here. There is a moderate lane for Democrats. The party of Obama won't let Biden have a primary challenger, but underneath the presidential level, it's happening.
What do you think of the strategic choice that the president made over the last week, as I was mentioning, which that the election in November is a referendum on a single question: MAGA dictatorship or a continuation of our representative republic?
Yeah, I mean, it's all he's got. I mean, he spent about 2 months with this test balloon on Bidenomics, and I mean, it was the same result as the Hindenburg. I mean, it just crashed and burned. His numbers kept getting worse. You can't tell people who have a nervous feeling in their stomach when they get to the grocery store about how much this is cost that everything's fine because the stock market's doing well. I mean, it just doesn't work. Economic issues and crime, I've always stressed this, economic issues and crime are gut issues. You feel them. You feel it. When that bill tallies at the grocery and there's something else that you can't afford, you feel that physically. You don't feel foreign policy that way. You don't feel intellectual issues that way. So Biden's not going to be able to convince Americans that their eyes and pocketbooks are lying to them.
And the Haley DeSantis debate last night, sound and fury signifying not very much?
I mean, I had these crazy nightmares all night where there was just this voice that kept saying, DeSantisLies.com, DeSantisLies.com. I mean, just all night. It was horrible. I don't know. It clearly looks like a race for second place. Yep. I was surprised that Haley got in the mud so quickly. I knew DeSantis was going to have to try to take shots at Haley because she's an ascendant and he's just been a flat line. I didn't think Haley needed to do that. I thought maybe Haley should have ignored some of DeSantis's jibes and gone squarely after Trump. But yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, listen, Christie dropping out means there's a real chance Haley wins New Hampshire. I mean, that is now, in my mind, that's 50-50 right now. But after that, even if she's competitive in South Carolina, you look at the rest of the map, and I don't see how Trump loses. I mean, you say, well, maybe I'm watching CNN yesterday, and they keep saying, well, maybe something will happen. that black bonnet. Yeah. I'm like what? Like, what? He gets arrested? Like, what? That already happened. Like, there's nothing that's gonna happen. Like, nothing's gonna happen.
No, Trump,
yeah. That's not deep thinking. There's always the possibility something unforeseen could happen. Yes, that is by definition. Right. That is the human condition. Thank you. Yeah.
Trump mentioned yesterday that he knows who his running mate's going to be. Do you have any inkling as to who that might be?
I mean, it's not me. But,
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm very busy. I don't. Although I guess vice presidents don't do that much, right? So maybe that would work. No, I don't. And frankly, I'm not sure that. I don't know. That strikes me as the kind of thing that Trump might tease, and maybe he knows, and maybe he doesn't. Maybe it could change. But no, he's a showman. I mean, that's a great thing to say, and we're talking about it this morning.
Exactly. And, he did roll out Kristi Noem in Iowa, so maybe that's a leading indicator that maybe giving her a test spin, if you will, and maybe that's a leading indicator where he'll go. But, right, I mean, I don't know any more than that either. That's kind of analysis belongs on CNN. David Marcus, journalist living in Virginia, author of Charade, The COVID Lies.
By God.
What's that?
West Virginia.
No, did I say what? Did I say Virginia? Oh, I apologize for the I apologize for the insult. Journalist living in West Virginia. The book Charade: The COVID Lies That Crushed a Nation. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, business owners, are you wondering how to grow your business? Do you need cash flow and a ready source for financing? Well, Signature Bank can help. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that Signature Bank's loan decisions are made locally by a team who knows your name, cares about your business, and is invested in your success. When you need advice about your business or even have a question, Signature Bank is there to help. There are no handoffs or call centers. This is a team that wants to get to know you and your business. That's why Signature Bank in Chicago is my bank. That's right. I'm a customer. When I call, someone picks up the phone on the other end. And with Signature Bank, I can securely bank anywhere, anytime. Reach out to my friends at Signature Bank. Call 773-467-5630. That's 773-467-5630. Or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. Signaturebank.bank. Your business could be Signature Bank's next success story. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It's a new year, and that means New Year's resolutions. Amy Jacobson here, and if one of your New Year's resolutions was to do more to help others, then we wanted to let you know that you still have the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of children in Latin America and the Caribbean through Food for the Poor. Your donation of just $80 provides foods for an entire year for 2 children. That's life-changing. Food for the Poor is a faith-based organization that works with partners on the ground to make sure these children are fed. We talk a lot about the root causes of immigration crisis, and one of the causes is the situation in many of these countries. So this is your chance to help take care of others. To make a donation of any amount, just visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. That's 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor.
Looking for a winter destination to keep your golf skills sharp? Look no further than the Golf Factory, located in Mount Prospect in the Randhurst Mall. With 10 Trackman golf simulators, a full bar with a handcrafted food menu to enjoy while you play, you'll find a complete indoor golf experience at the Golf Factory in Mount Prospect. Come and enjoy state-of-the-art simulators that use the most popular launch monitor on the PGA Tour, providing the most realistic indoor golf experience possible. Looking to practice? These simulators read 27 data points to help you fix your swing. Want to play? You'll find nearly 300 real-world golf courses and add 4 new courses each month. Would you like to compete with your friends or make new ones? Leagues and monthly competitions are now available. Looking to entertain? Groups of 75 can be accommodated at the Golf Factory in Mount Prospect. See for yourself why the Golf Factory in Mount Prospect is Chicagoland's premier destination for indoor golf. Visit online today at golffactory.golf. That's golffactory.golf.
Man, you talk about hitting a grand slam, just feeling just incredible. And I mean, I haven't felt this great in years. I'm 52, and with these, wow. And I just appreciate, I'm impressed I've never felt this great. I just want to say thank you to you guys.
Honey, I am like a different woman. I mean, finally one day I kept seeing that commercial and I said, what the heck? What do I got to lose? I started feeling a little bit better. So I got my sister on them. I got my daughter on them. I can't say enough about them. I really can't. Those commercials that you all do is the truth.
Step into the new year with a new you. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Cooler weather is here. Is your vehicle ready for the winter? Remke's Garage, your diesel engine and transmission specialist, can inspect your vehicle so you won't end up on the side of the road. Take it to the experts. Take it to Remke's Garage. The shop at Remke's Garage is equipped with state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment and highly trained technicians. When was the last time you changed your filters, checked your batteries, inspected your tires, belts and hoses, or flushed your coolant? Be prepared. Bring your Mercedes Sprinter, Ford Power Stroke, Dodge Cummins, Chevy Duramax, or Isuzu diesel truck to Remke's Garage and have your tires inspected as well. Ask about the fleet-worthy commercial-grade Toyo Celsius Cargo all-weather tire. The premier tire to accommodate the rainy, icy, snowy, and cold weather we encounter here in the Chicagoland area. Don't get stuck. Remke's Garage is your diesel and Toyo tire headquarters. Visit remkesgarage.com, that's REMKES garage.com, and schedule your inspection today.
Long day. Time to charge up.
Hey, just like my delivery truck.
Even kids know to keep business moving forward, it's time to make the switch to electric vehicles. Whether you have one van or a whole fleet of trucks, resources are available to help you make the changes that make sense.
Let's go!
Beep, beep.
Go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
The golden years of retirement should be an exciting time if you have a solid plan. Wealth Management Group can help you sort out the financial confusion of retirement, legacy, and estate planning. Craig Bolanos and his team have curated a 2-part webinar series covering the key components of constructing a solid legacy and estate plan. Put your legacy on the right path. Go to Invest with WMG and click on the Webinars tab. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Wealth Management Group, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial.
The holidays have come and gone, and once again, you were generous. Don't worry, though, Pure Talk has your back. Instead of paying Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile $60, $70, $80 a line, Pure Talk has unlimited plans starting at just $20 a month. Get terrific coverage on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. This is how the average family saves almost $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to a wireless company that shares your values, a company that isn't afraid to invest in shows like mine, a company who is veteran-owned and serves veterans. So I switched, and it works. I have a phone with Pure Talk. I see no difference. Just dial pound 250 and say the keyword Dennis Prager, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team is waiting by to serve you. Dial pound 250 and say the keyword Dennis Prager to be connected now. Again, dial pound 250 and say Dennis Prager to start off the year saving on wireless with a company you can be proud of, Pure Talk.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, just as the reports of Dai's death are greatly exaggerated, a reminder of who you're dealing with here when you're talking about the left, and despite the hue and cry that is being offered in response to the real-world impacts of sanctuary city, sanctuary state policies, the inflationary environment, so forth, that we were discussing with David Marcus, these are ideologues. These are identitarian ideologues. Don't believe me? Let me introduce you to the All Souls Choir. The All Souls Choir that got together to sing the song Identity Politics while all wearing masks.
Yeah, some of them had two on.
The song Identity Politics is based on the writings of Nicole Hannah-Jones, she of the 1619 Project, and Stacey Abrams, she of the offensive line of the Atlanta Falcons, and also former two-time candidate for governor. Of course, we know Stacey Abrams.
She hasn't conceded yet either.
Listen to this. just to drive home the point of what a free and sensible people is up against. I mean, it's a nice little arrangement. Just in case you didn't pick it up, our rights depend on whether we live in the right state. You know, our rights depend on where we were born. I know, now it's an earworm, right?
Yes.
Our rights depend on how or when our families arrived. Our rights depend on whether we can afford valid ID. Our rights depend on whether that ID matches our gender.
Oh my God.
Our rights depend on the lawyers we can afford. Our rights depend on whether the criminal justice system has convicted us of certain crimes under the law. This is, I mean, a system that targets some of us more than others. Really catchy. And so on and so forth. So, I mean, to the question of, do you think that the suburbanites who composed this crier, by the way, this is all awfuls and awful male impersonators. The question about the people saying, welcome, now get your butts to Chicago and get out of our community. Like this is a moment where they're learning something and there's going to be a pivot on their politics. I'm skeptical.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:37, we'll turn our attention to the plight of imprisoned Chi-Com dissident Jimmy Lai at 7:37.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
And right now we have 34 degrees at 7:34. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. Gas and grocery taxes, all part of yesterday's Iowa debate on CNN.
First of all, bless his heart, DeSantisLies.com. We have never raised a tax. I've never raised a tax at all. I can tell you right now.
Meantime, DeSantis shot back, claiming Nikki Haley in the past tried to raise gas and grocery taxes in South Carolina. Fox News hosted a town hall with former President Donald Trump in Des Moines and was asked if former Governor Chris Christie dropping out last night would impact his campaign.
I don't know if it does or not. Look, We're winning tremendously here. I think we're 24 points up. I brought some polls if you want to see them, just in case. But I think we're 25 points up.
In other news, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is ruling out a ceasefire in his country's war with Russia. Nick Saban moving on to the next chapter of his life. The longtime college football coach at Alabama and elsewhere announcing his retirement, and the New England Patriots professionally are expected to part ways with legendary head coach Bill Belichick today. Northern Illinois gears up for another winter storm beginning late tonight into Friday, into Saturday at noon. The big problem, wind gusts of up to 50 miles an hour. A new taxpayer-funded shelter in Chicago is now accepting migrants. The shelter located at the site of a former CVS in the Little Village neighborhood. While Chicago officials say they'll remain a sanctuary city, they are regulating buses, causing them to drop migrants off elsewhere. Asked about bringing uniformity statewide in dealing with the bus drop-offs, Governor J.B. Pritzker says right now that's not possible.
In general, you can't tell a group of people or an aircraft that it can't come somewhere. On the other hand, there are lots of things that I think would be a significant deterrent, and they already are working.
The trial date for the suspected Highland Park shooter is being pushed back. Lake County judge canceling the February 26 trial date for Robert Cremo III. The judge will set a new trial date February 21st. Bulls beat the Rockets in OT 124-119. Blackhawks take on the Jets tonight. Bears moving on from their offensive staff, firing Luke Getsy and 4 other offensive assistants yesterday, retaining head coach Matt Eberflus. Big Ten hoops. Northwestern a win over Penn State. Fighting Illini take on Michigan State tonight. The news, a service of Remke's Garage. Take it to the experts. Take it to Remke's Garage. Remke's Garage is your Sprinter, diesel, and Toyo Tire headquarters. Visit remkesgarage.com. That's REMKES garage.com and schedule your inspection today. We'll have a check of traffic and weather coming up next on AM 560.
This radio station is always on, but sometimes you need more content that you can take with you anywhere. That's why we invented the SalemPodcastNetwork.com. You'll find all the great hosts on this radio station, plus a few more, like Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, Trish Regan, Jenna Ellis, and Dennis and Julie. There's literally no end to what we can teach you. It's like radio on demand, and just like radio, it's always on. Go find out what you're missing. Download the app, SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Hey, business owners. Are you looking for a fast, easy way to get the cash you need to keep your business growing strong? I'm talking to Joel Bess, president of Swish Funding, and he says he has the perfect solution. Joel, what makes Swish Funding different?
Thanks, Mike. To start, at Swish Funding, we focus on your business revenue, not your personal credit score. And we're ready to help businesses with funding for overhead, expansion, inventory, payroll, or even slow cash flow. Next, whether you need $5,000, $500,000, or even $5 million, our process is quick, straightforward, and takes just minutes with funding available in less than 24 hours.
That sounds like a winning plan for any business. What does it take to qualify?
If you've been in business for over 1 year and have a monthly revenue of at least $25,000, you can get funding you need the same day.
Swish Funding really is different. Find out just how easy it is by going to swishradio.com today. That's SWISH radio.com. Swishradio.com.
If you're self-employed and purchase your own health insurance, I have some great news. From now until January 15th, the health insurance exchanges are open again. And even if you've never qualified for a health insurance subsidy before, you most likely will now. The American Rescue Plan expanded subsidy eligibility to millions of Americans who have never qualified before, even to those with high income levels. And this year, you can purchase a multi-state PPO policy, which includes access to Northwestern Medical Group, as well as other teaching hospitals around the nation. Employers who provide small group coverage also have new options, and so do seniors looking for Medicare supplement coverage. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Obamacare, then you need a local expert on your side. C. Stephen Tucker from HealthInsuranceMentors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 25-year licensed broker, who's been educating our listeners for more than 10 years. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551.
Staples stores provide innovative products and services for small business, remote workers and learners, even teachers and parents. Explore more at your local Staples store.
740 on AM 560, The Answer. It's time to call Permaseal at 800-421-7325. Time to check the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center. Eden's inbound 20 minutes from Lake Cook Road into the junction. Back outbound 27. Kennedy inbound 50 minutes. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike stop and go inbound between Wolf and Racine. They moved a disabled vehicle out of your way inbound right at Harlem Avenue. Stevenson inbound. It's a full hour, 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan inbound. Vehicle slammed into a guardrail this morning in the locals on the inbound side. On the off-ramp to the Stevenson, 37 and climbing into the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast from our QC Kinetics Weather Center. Cloudy this morning, and we'll have clouds and sun for the afternoon. And a high of 32. Snow begins overnight with a low of 26. 33 clouds and a few flurries in the area right now. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by IDT. Eliminate paper files with the IoT Smart Connected Scanning Device. Find them at ready4IDT.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. America First with Sebastian Gorka. Weekday afternoons at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Jimmy Lai is the publisher of the Apple Daily newspaper in Hong Kong. He was sentenced, we've talked about him many times before, but I don't know that his name came up when communist dictator Xi came over to San Francisco. The streets lined with Chi-Com flags.
Oh my God. Homeless people removed for the first time in decades.
It was
nothing to see here. Everything
right, proper welcome for a dictator. Certainly, the corporate America that was intended, the corporate America representatives in attendance were all waving those flags during Xi's remarks. Pathetic display. But anyway, Jimmy Lai was sentenced to more than 6 years in prison in December of 2022, but he still awaits trial on other charges, trumped-up charges by the Chinese communists. He's being sentenced and he's being gulagged the way that Solzhenitsyn was against the Soviets because he spoke up against the totalitarian regime. The question is, what should we in the West be doing about it other than writing op-eds? What should we expect our government to be doing about it? Perhaps offering the same focus and negotiation that we applied here in the West, in America, to the release of Brittany Griner from Putin's clutches. For more on that topic, we're pleased to be joined by Benedict Rogers. He's the co-founder and chief executive of Hong Kong Watch and author of The China Nexus. Ben Rogers, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Good to be with you.
So you're friends with Jimmy Lai, right?
That's right. Yes, I've known him for quite some years, and used to meet him fairly regularly before he was imprisoned.
Do you have any sense of what his condition is? I mean, he's not a young man.
That's right. He just turned 76 just before Christmas. My understanding is, there are obviously health concerns for a man at that age, but that said, I think he's in as good health as he could be in the circumstances, and certainly mentally and spiritually, he's in remarkable health. He's a very devout Christian, a Catholic, and my understanding is he's using a lot of his time in his prison cell to read and study spiritual and religious books and pray. So that is sustaining him. But
does he have any connect to the outside world? Is he allowed visitors or information to come from him and get to him?
Yes, he is allowed periodic family visits. I don't currently know how frequent they were. I think the frequency was reduced a few months ago. But he does get family visits from time to time, and I think occasional other visits from friends. And my understanding is he is allowed to receive books as long as they're not of or not deemed to be of a political nature.
Mm-hmm. And he's a British national, right?
That's correct. And it's taken a long time for the British government to do anything about his case. There has been progress in the last few months, and Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, wrote a letter just earlier this week speaking up very strongly for him. But in my view, the British government should have been doing that a long time ago.
Why have they been slow-walking it?
I think essentially it comes down to this sort of nervousness that many Western governments have about not wanting to offend the communist regime in China because of business interests, and that's the only explanation I can come up with. And I think the British government has only moved on this case because of pressure from parliamentarians, pressure from the media, pressure from groups like us in Hong Kong Watch. Otherwise, I'm not sure they would have done.
So interesting. I mean, I sort of have this same dynamic with Evan Gershkovich, Wall Street Journal reporter who's been imprisoned by Putin, where the Wall Street Journal, appropriately, since he's an employee, has been keeping track of this and writing periodic editorials and I assume putting pressure on behind closed doors as best they can. But it just hasn't gotten sort of the attention you would expect, certainly not the attention that Brittany Griner got. And it's the same thing with Jimmy Lai. I mean, this is a member of the press. This is a pro-democracy, anti-totalitarian member of the press. He had a news outlet. And this just hasn't seemed to captivate Western media. And I wonder why you think that is, if you think that is.
Well, I think that is true, although I would say that his trial has probably had far more attention than many of the other trials in Hong Kong because he is such an internationally respected figure. But you're right, although it has had some attention, some coverage, there have been op-eds about Jimmy Lai in indeed also the Wall Street Journal and other newspapers, it hasn't had the level of attention that it deserves. And I don't know if that's just because we're in a time at the moment where there are so many global issues and crises, not least obviously Ukraine and now Israel and Gaza, that are occupying people's minds. That could be one explanation. But I agree, it is receiving some attention, but not what it deserves.
But he's a self-made billionaire. I mean, a lot of people don't know his rag to riches story. Can you tell us?
Absolutely. It's a remarkable story. He was born in mainland China. At the age of just 12 years old, he left on his own as a stowaway on a boat from mainland China to Hong Kong, fleeing the terrible famine of Mao's Great Leap Forward era in China. Arrived in Hong Kong, worked as effectively a child laborer in a textiles factory, and worked his way up, became a factory manager, and then started his own business, and that was a remarkable success. He started other businesses. He owned an amazing chain of retail stores, Giordano, which was huge across Asia. And then he branched into the publishing and media industry essentially after the Tiananmen Square massacre, where he saw what happened, wanted to be in solidarity with the democracy movement in China, and started the Apple Daily newspaper. But it is an incredible rags to riches story.
Yeah, the press on this is so interesting. I haven't seen a ton of press coverage. I mean, again, not commensurate with the atrocities of what Chinese communists have done to Uyghur Muslims in that country either. And it's just curious. I mean, you see this just in comparison to the coverage that pro-Hamas protesters get, and those politicians calling for ceasefires, and activists and so on and so forth. And I just wonder what the Western media's attitude really is towards Chinese communists, this Chinese communist dictatorship, and communists generally, not named Putin. I just wonder if it speaks to something of a mindset about the West versus the Far East.
I think there's a lot of truth in that, and as you say, I mean, every day these days we're hearing pro-Hamas voices, whereas from time to time the genocide of the Uyghurs gets some coverage, but then it falls away again, and the same with Hong Kong and the other issues under the Chinese regime. I think there are exceptions to this. There are newspapers like, again, we keep mentioning the Wall Street Journal, but they have been consistent in publishing at least opinion pieces on these issues. The Telegraph in the UK has been pretty good. But overall, it is strange. And I mean, I think for some, it varies depending on the outfit. But for some publications, there may be economic considerations. Maybe they have or have ambitions to have some kind of business in China, and they don't want to rock the boat. For others, it may be a more ideological consideration. It's hard to generalize, I think, but I certainly agree with the premise of your comment that it's not receiving the attention it deserves.
It seems to me too that we should be doing a better job here, and maybe vis-a-vis the British government, having pressure put on it to enlist the American government to also put pressure on China with respect to Jimmy Lai. I mean, we had, as I mentioned, you had Xi come to town, come to San Francisco, and I don't remember Jimmy Lai's name being brought up, and any coverage of that possibility, or even that should have been on the agenda when Biden spoke with Xi. And it just really speaks to me of a establishment press corps inside the Beltway in this country that spends a lot of time talking about the importance of a free press, but only if it relates directly to them. If it relates to an outlet that's more conservative, there's not the same concern. If it relates to a dissident of a regime that incredibly I think they're sympathetic to, then there's not that same concern. And I don't know, this may be an opportunity to explore that a little bit more and call some of the decision makers at these outlets in the West to account.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And, for anyone who is genuinely concerned about press freedom, not just press freedom for their own particular outlet, but press freedom in principle, you couldn't find a clearer, stronger example of an absolute travesty of press freedom in both the imprisonment of Jimmy Lai, but also the forced closure of his newspaper, the Apple Daily, in 2021, which was the largest, best-selling mass circulation pro-democracy newspaper in Hong Kong. It was very successful. It had no financial difficulties, and the only reason it shut down was because the authorities basically froze the bank account, meaning the newspaper couldn't pay their bills, and so they had no option but to close. If that's not a violation of press freedom, I don't know what is. And so anyone who champions press freedom in principle ought to be highlighting Jimmy and the Apple Daily.
Yeah, well, these on-again, off-again champions of press freedom, I mean, we see this in other places, too, in Ukraine, when Zelensky cracks down on news reporters and news outlets, as he has done. There's nary any reporting of that, too, because this has been selected as something which the D.C. press corps here is going to be unrelenting cheerleaders for. And once they've decided that this is a mascot for them, then they're not interested in any cognitive dissonance or certainly any contextual reporting. So we just see this over and over again, and it seems to me it speaks to another institution that's supposed to be a bedrock of a free society, the Fourth Estate, that really isn't interested in holding the other three states accountable. It's more interested in being part of the other three estates.
Yes, I think there's a lot of truth in that. I will just add one slightly more positive note, though, which is that a few months ago there was, despite all the concerns you've raised, there was actually a letter that was signed, I forget by how many, but by a large number of newspaper editors from around the world, from the US, the UK, other countries as well, about Jimmy Lai, and that was quite significant. So, although much more needs to be done, there are still some good people in the media industry who are doing the right thing, but we need to keep at it.
And is your expectation that barring some outside pressure, that the Chinese communists will keep Jimmy Lai gulagged until his death?
That is my expectation. I think the verdict is already predetermined, and the only thing that we don't know at this stage is what the length of his sentence will be. But the minimum sentence under the national security law, which is the trial that he's currently underway, is a minimum sentence of 10 years, and I don't expect them to be lenient. So we can expect a sentence of more than 10 years, and given that he's 76, it's very highly likely that he will die in prison.
Benedict Rogers, co-founder and chief executive of Hong Kong Watch, author of The China Nexus. Ben Rogers, thanks for joining us and elevating the case of Jimmy Lai. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
You know, when you're suffering from chronic pain, you're pretty miserable. And guess what? When you're miserable, people around you don't like to hang out with you. You're not fun. You bring it down. So take care of yourself. Be proactive. Try QC Kinetics. Why? Well, no drugs, no surgery, no downtime. I'm talking about pain in your joints. You know what I'm talking about. You pickleball players, your knees, your hip, your shoulders, your elbows, back pain. Yes, it can all be taken care of without invasive surgery, and it's called QC Kinetics. It is the nation's leader in regenerative, non-surgical pain relief. Folks, the future of pain treatments has arrived. Hundreds of board-certified QC Kinetic providers have treated tens of thousands of satisfied patients all over this great country. People with said back pain, hip pain, any pain associated with arthritis or an injury, pickleball players. This is not a Band-Aid. This is a revolutionary treatment that can get you moving again. So get your life back. Life's too short not to have fun. Life's too short. Don't be angry because you have chronic pain. Take care of it. Be proactive. Get a free consultation on the calendar today. Call QC Kinetics. The number, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. You've got nothing to lose. It's a free consultation. 312-809-5955.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer,
At 8:08, we'll talk to a 33-year-old Army Reserve veteran who was recently released from jail after spending nearly 3 years incarcerated for nonviolent offenses on J6. That's 8:08.
I can't wait, but now we have to stop by the newsroom first and check in once again with Mike Scott.
A Little Village shelter begins to accept migrants. A couple dead in a murder-suicide in Downers Grove. 5 accused of conspiring to rob ATMs in Illinois. Bears are retaining Matt Eberflus, and WIND Chicago News Time is 8 o'clock.
Why does former President Trump think we should re-elect him? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
You have a man who can't lead. You have a man who can't find his way off a stage after he makes a speech that lasts for about 2 minutes.
And he told a Fox News town hall.
The new narrative they have, as you know, is I'm going to be a dictator. That's going to be the new narrative because a guy like Biden, there's nothing he can run on.
The former president told voters in Iowa before Monday's caucuses he'd rebuild the economy, secure the border, build more wall, and there would be mass deportations of illegal migrants.
Many of those people come from jails and prisons. Many of those people come from mental institutions and insane asylums, and many of those people are terrorists.
Now, they debated on CNN also his rivals, Nikki Haley. Ron DeSantis took swipes at the former president, who's the front runner, and each other.
I debated the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. I thought he lied a lot. Nikki Haley gives him a run for his money, and she may even be more liberal than Gavin Newsom is.
You can go to DeSantisLies.com and look at all of those. There's at least 24 lies that he's told about me.
They debated hours after Chris Christie dropped out of the race. Now, the former president will soon return to court in New York, but the judge of the Trump Organization civil fraud trial won't let him help lawyers give him closing arguments. A Trump Truth Social post calls it a rigged case and election interference. Also today, Hunter Biden will be arraigned on 9 federal tax charges. We just got an update on inflation, showing consumer prices rose more than predicted in December.
Last month, the headline year over year was 3.1%. It's now 3.4%. Month over month, also hotter than expected, up 0.3%.
Fox Business Network, Cheryl Casoni. The coach, some call the GOAT, is out of a job.
Arguably the greatest coach in NFL history, Bill Belichick, is leaving his job as head coach of the New England Patriots after 24 seasons. Belichick won 6 Super Bowls in New England, 2 more titles than any other head coach. His 9 Super Bowl appearances, also an NFL record.
That's Jared Max. America's listening to Fox News.
33 degrees, cloudy skies at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer, good morning. I'm Mike Scott. A new taxpayer-funded shelter in Chicago is now accepting migrants. It's located at the site of a former CVS pharmacy in the Little Village neighborhood. While City of Chicago officials say they'll remain a sanctuary city, they have regulated buses, causing buses to drop migrants off elsewhere. Asked about bringing uniformity statewide, the governor says that's not possible.
In general, you can't tell a group of people or an aircraft that it can't come somewhere. On the other hand, there are lots of things that I think would be a significant deterrent, and they already are working.
Meantime, Grundy County Board Chairman Chris Balkema has pushed through a resolution that makes that county a non-sanctuary county.
Not only is Grundy County non-sanctuary, as reflected in December, but in January, we will do everything we can do to proactively move the immigrants on down to the intended destination, a so-called city that's going to welcome them. That's great. That's the city of Chicago in our case.
Jury deliberations resumed today in the trial of 6 suspected gang members charged in the murder of a Chicago rapper. All the defendants are charged with murder in aid of racketeering and conspiring to kill Carlton Weekly. Couple is dead following a murder-suicide in Downers Grove. Police say Dongwei Su shot and killed his wife, Yakun Sui, following an argument and a physical fight on Tuesday night that turned violent in their home. The news, a service of Dan and Amy 24/7. You can now enjoy uninterrupted programming from Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson around the clock all day, every day. Listen now, Dan and Amy 247.com. AM 560 news time is 8:03. Time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
KB Home is expressing optimism about the housing market. Its earnings topped expectations, though its profit was lower than a year ago. CEO Jeffrey Metzger says home deliveries exceeded expectations, helped by improved build times, and consumers are responding favorably to the recent decline in mortgage rates. Amazon has missed a deadline to address concerns in Europe over its purchase of Roomba maker iRobot. The European Commission regulators are expected to make a final decision by February 14th. Bitcoin's price topped $47,000 this morning after the Securities and Exchange Commission approved Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, which are expected to start trading today. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola, invested in you.
And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The Sean Thompson Show.
Ruby Freeman and Shea Moss, they were seeking $43 million, but a court gave them $148 million in damage because she said she was afraid after Rudy Giuliani said there was wrongdoing at the election or that they purposely committed wrongdoing. We are not to question the most obvious election theft in American history.
The Sean Thompson Show. Weekday afternoons at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Man, you talk about hitting a grand slam, just feeling just incredible. And I mean, I haven't felt this great in years. I'm 52, and with these, wow. And I just appreciate, I'm impressed. I've never felt this great. I just want to say thank you to you guys.
Honey, I am like a different woman. I mean, finally one day I kept seeing that commercial, and I said, what the heck? What do I got to lose? I started feeling a little bit better. So I got my sister on them. I got my daughter on them. I can't say enough about them. I really can't. Those commercials that you all do is the truth.
Step into the new year with a new you. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-2468751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code Chicago.
Paid actor portrayal.
Life can be so unpredictable. After losing my dad, it made me think about my family if something were to happen to me. I had heard about life insurance through Ethos and how easy it was to get coverage. They were right. In 10 minutes, I was covered. And boom, family protected.
Ethos fast and easy online term life insurance up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com.
There's no better time than the new year to help protect your identity and finances. LifeLock detects potential threats to your identity that you may miss on your own. If you do become a victim, a U.S.-based LifeLock restoration specialist will work to fix it. LifeLock is the New Year's resolution that's easy to keep. Save 25% off your first year. Call 1-800-LifeLock or go to LifeLock.com. Promo code CLAY to save 25%. That's LifeLock.com, promo code CLAY.
Go with your gut. Your dog's immune system is based in the gut. A diet lacking in nutrients can cause itching, scratching, and a weak immune system. However, there is a solution. DINOVITE. Dinovite.
It took a grand total of 2 weeks. The dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Try Dinovite for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Learn more at dinovite.com/radio.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dinovite.
Progressive presents 10 things on a contractor's to-do list that are harder than getting a commercial auto insurance quote. Bidding a new client, giving an accurate estimate, finding affordable materials, getting a client to pay you for work you already did, getting a client to pay you, period, securing permits and workers and tools, getting those workers and tools to work together, and finding the perfect pair of overalls. Pockets, baby. But the easiest thing on a small business owner's to-do list? Seeing if you can save on commercial auto insurance. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms and conditions.
It's 8:08, and let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. You've got solid traffic on the inbound Edens, Foster to Montrose, 30 minutes into the junction from Lake Cook Road. The Kennedy, 55 minutes, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Outbound, 47, back out to O'Hare. It's an hour 5 on the inbound Ike from 390 into the old post office. You've got a disabled vehicle on the right shoulder inbound at Harlem Avenue. Stevenson 50 minutes from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. The Dan Ryan, your exit ramp inbound to the Stevenson Expressway is now closed after an accident. The vehicle smashing into a guardrail. 40 minutes in climbing on the inbound Dan Ryan from 95th into the Burns Circle. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. In our QC Kinetics Weather Center, here's Steve Williams.
Cloudy skies this morning, partly sunny by this afternoon, the high 32. Cloudy with some snow late tonight, could see about an inch, low 26. We're into storm watch tomorrow morning. Snow, look for 3 to 6 inches, very windy day, the high 35. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Flurries at Midway and 34, clouds and 33 at O'Hare. Your next news update, 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. This is the reported account of Tim Hale's conduct on January 6th of 2021 and ultimately his conviction, which sent him to prison for more than 3 years. Former Army reservist and security guard at a naval weapons station, found guilty on all counts. Prosecutors portray Timothy Hale Cuccinelli of New Jersey as an extremist who hoped for a second civil war. The government presented evidence of his using racist, anti-Semitic, and anti-gay slurs, yelling obscenities at officers protecting the Capitol, and later enthusiastically boasting about breaching the building to a roommate. That roommate of his, as jurors heard at trial, was secretly wearing a recording device on behalf of the investigators with the Naval Criminal Intelligence Service and the FBI. Hale did not dispute that he entered the Capitol. He, in fact, said, "I should not have been there," in his own testimony. He sort of pled ignorance about his presence there and the idea that he was potentially disrupting an official proceeding. He was not charged with assaulting police or causing property damage. He also, it was sort of conceded that he did not travel to Washington with any specific goal of storming the Capitol, let alone disrupting the electoral count. He didn't even realize that the Capitol was where Congress met, he said. All right, well, let's talk. These complicated, some of these cases are complicated, and sometimes defendants aren't always sympathetic, and this is where the rule of law becomes even more important. Tim Hale, 33-year-old Army Reserve veteran who was recently released from jail after spending, nearly 3 years incarcerated on J6. Tim Hale, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
So that's like the official Beltway media account of what transpired, what you did on Jan 6th, and then a sort of a summary of the trial and the result of that trial. Give us your version of events in terms of why you went to J6 and what you did on that day.
Sure. So, as I'm sure you or any of your listeners know, the official narratives around January 6th are jaundiced accounts, to say the least. The reason I went to the Capitol, or broadly we'll say Washington, D.C., was so that I could hear a Trump speech. This was theoretically going to be the beginning of a second term if he pulled a rabbit out of a hat, or it was going to be the last major speech of his presidency. And so I wanted to be there for a major historical event. I wanted to be there to support a president that I voted for. And I wanted to be there as a citizen. So I went there in a suit and a tie. I got there. I blasted down the road for 4 hours from New Jersey. I worked overnights as a security officer, so I was rabbiting, and it really was not something I was expecting to happen the way it did. If you look up the Stop the Steal rallies from the months before, why would you expect otherwise, So I didn't know there was going to be anything going down at the Capitol building. I didn't even know there was going to be a march down there. I just assumed it was going to be, Trump's thing at the Ellipse, and that was it. But when people got down there, I have cell phone videos showing people were peaceful. And this is why, certain people like me were held without bond. It wasn't for the reasons they made up. It was because they didn't want the evidence getting out to the public. And so there were barriers that were knocked down a half hour before I showed up. There were people knocking barriers over before Trump finished his speech. And so when people like me got to the Capitol building, we poured through an area that was supposed, quote unquote, unauthorized. But most people didn't know that. And instead of an audible warning like, hey, this is a restricted zone, you have to leave, the Capitol Police, and I believe a lot of them were just doing their job, but the Capitol Police were unprepared, and they didn't know what they were doing. So instead of that, they attacked the crowd. And most people don't know this. There were agitators in the crowd as well. A lot of them were feds. You can tell just from looking at video. And so there's this issue of entrapment that the American public is now starting to realize. I'm sure you heard yesterday about Ray Epps.
Did anyone encourage you to enter the Capitol? Did anybody say, hey, young man, let's go this way. Come follow me?
No. And in fact, this is what's so disturbing about January 6th is it's normalized Brady violations. There's video I've got after my conviction that showed me trying to leave the area. I was in the scaffolding and I got bottled in, and so did a lot of people. How did you enter the Capitol in the first place? By what means? Basically, there's this bridge between the Western Terrace, which is where most of the crowd was initially, and then when things escalated, people poured through the scaffolding, this bridge. And basically, once you're in, you can't go back out. And so you basically have to go up. And so people were pouring upward. And there's actually a point where I stopped to pick up a flag. So, I clearly was not in any hurry to go inside the Capitol building. But people, about five.
Just hold on a second. Did you walk through an open door, or did you enter through a broken window?
No, I walked through an open door.
Okay.
And you weren't pushing police back on the time when you were walking through the door?
No, I walked through. There were no cops in sight. In fact, there's one officer, I think it's camera 0102, CCTV. This officer is flanked by like 5 photographers as they wait for people to breach that one window, the first window that's broken in. He pulls out some spray. He doesn't actually spray it. It looks like a photo op, and then he disappears with the photographers. So, it was staged.
Okay.
This is something the public has no idea about.
But so you walk through a door, an open door into the Capitol, and then what do you do there in the 40 minutes you were inside?
Well, I wandered around because, like I had no idea what I was doing or where I was. I believe, had a concussion from getting, so many flashbangs in my area. But I wandered around the Capitol building. I eventually entered an area called the Crypt, which is an area with a bunch of statues. So I took, some pictures with statues. I made my way into the Capitol Visitor Center. I danced like a nerd. And then the cops ended up, it seemed like they were trying to bottle people in, but after we basically ended up talking to the Capitol Police for I'm going to say 10 minutes. The Capitol Police admitted a lot of them were Trump supporters, and they didn't want to attack the crowd like they were. They made it seem, again, this is, take it with a grain of salt. I only have video. I don't have the audio, but they made it clear that there were things going on that they didn't want to do. But They were, quote, doing their jobs. So there was an element.
It was reported that at one point you interfered with a police officer trying to arrest one of the rioters. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, after it happened, I didn't even think about it. I completely forgot that even happened until I actually got to see the evidence. I think that's why they withheld so much of it. But all I really did was pull on a dude's collar to drag him off the ground because I was concerned he was injured. It had nothing to do with interfering with the police. As soon as the cop said back away, I backed away. So it wasn't me trying to interfere with an arrest. I was just trying to assist someone who was injured. I did the same thing on the outside of the Capitol building where there were no cops. I was in the military and I was trained to assist people. There's some video. Speaking of that, there's video that was also withheld that again shows me trying to assist someone who's injured on the ground. So I never raised my fist against anybody. I was just angry because civilians being injured. And a lot of people were. A lot of people who didn't fight the cops were still angry because of what they interpreted as excessive force, and that was a contributing factor to a lot of the, let's just say, the excesses of the day.
So how long were you inside the Capitol, and then why did you leave at what point in time?
I was in there, I'm going to say, from 30 to 40 minutes. I left after the police in the Capitol Visitor Center said they had to escort us out. And so that happened. So we left the Capitol Visitor Center. They routed us through the crypt again, back to the area called the Senate Wing Door, which is where the initial breach was. There was a second breach through the doors, and so they had us leave through the windows. So it was kind of chaotic, and people just kind of. It's very weird how things were timed that day. That as soon as they're about to fix the first breach, a second breach happens. But
all right, so,
I ended up leaving through a window.
So you're out. You go home. You're not arrested on that day. You go home. Investigators show up. They apparently meet your roommate before they meet you, and they enlist him to wear a wire, which he did. What did you say to your roommate that was ultimately used in court against you about your activities on that day or your views about political matters and what you were doing there?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I confided in someone I viewed as a friend. We weren't just roommates. We were friends for 3 years. We worked together. And basically, I had said things semi-ironically, because that's just the kind of person I am. Not, getting a serious statement from me sometimes is like finding a diamond in a dunghill. And they kind of knew that. What really happened is that NCIS was tipped off by my management. I told you I was the union leader for the security contracting firm that I worked at, and management hated me. They hated Trump, and they basically set me up as an extremist. So they basically sent NCIS to set my roommate up to have me set up. And unfortunately, my roommate, and I don't blame him for this, he was about to leave the Navy. So his contract was ending, and they threatened to jam him up. I don't hold that against him. But he basically tried to record me talking about civil war and things like that. And it was ironic. And frankly, I have recordings of him saying the same things for 3 years. And this is what's so disturbing in America now, is that informing on people and taking things out of context in order to get convictions is going to become the new norm. Due process is going to be tossed out the window.
Are you sure Naval Intelligence threatened your roommate? Because the report is they paid him $4,000 to wear the wire.
I don't think personally, I think that's a distinction without a difference. I think that they probably bribed him a little.
It's an inducement. Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame, but I mean, again, they tried similar things with some coworkers. A lot of my coworkers tried to tip me off about certain things, but it's very clear that a lot of people who were close to me were threatened with getting fired and getting punished if they even came out in my defense.
Well, so I mean, you mentioned the extremists. So that's the way that you've been characterized in the press as somebody who had a dalliance with white supremacy, who said intemperate things about Jewish people, who's said intemperate things about other minorities. So But before we get to whether that's germane with respect to this criminal proceeding, because most of it was held out as prejudicial, appropriately so. But I mean, what are your views? How do you respond to the way that you've been characterized per statements that they're quoting you as having said about the groups I mentioned?
Yeah, well, it's twofold here, the answer. One is that they used some jokes out of context, and the other is that they made things up. As for the jokes, I mean, they literally tried to hold memes against me. You know, they went through jokes on my phone from a year prior. I mean, this is how hard they had to dig to try to find something on me. And I'm a satirist. It's not something I advertise because I'm a private person, really. But I mean, I've been producing satire since I was 14 years old. And one of the things they had to do was basically delete all my social media, so it would basically prohibit me from actually mounting a true character defense. This is one of the major ways that they were able to deny me bond. I think it's a four or five. Go ahead.
Right. Sorry to interrupt. But you were held over for trial for 16 months. We should mention that. So again, you are not. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm asking. You do not consider yourself a white supremacist. You have no animus that is race or ethnicity based against any particular group. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm from a mixed race family. I know everybody does that. Oh, I have a black friend, but I mean, it's like that's. You know, you got to in New Jersey, especially, we're one of the most diverse states in the country. I mean, keep in mind, my roommate was Jamaican for 3 years. If I was a white supremacist, that would have been a weird situation.
Right.
You know, I mean,
to move. Yeah.
Okay.
So during you spent 3 years in jail, but you spent 1 year in solitary confinement, 23 hours a day. For what? How did you get that gig?
Yeah, right. More or less. Sometimes it was 22 and 2, but the first year was pretty rough in the D.C. jail. By the time I was out, the conditions had changed a little. But you know, the real issues in the D.C. jail, and this is not just for January 6th defendants. A lot of it is, but the truth is that our criminal justice system is just not good. Penology, the penal system really needs to be reformed. The D.C. jail is bad for anybody, and but for us, for January 6th defendants, there was a lot of retaliation because the warden hated Trump, and so we were denied access to our lawyers, we were denied discovery, we were denied religious services. So I mean, you know, the Bill of Rights is supposed to apply to pretrial detainees. Pretrial detainees are the exception to the rule, and even then, if you haven't been convicted, you're supposed to have access to the same civil rights as anybody else. And that was really suspended. January 6th, people might not have liked that day, but the precedents that were set legally should be horrifying to any American citizen who values the Bill of Rights or the 14th Amendment.
Right. How would you characterize what happened to you? I mean, this business of you being some sort of extremist or white supremacist, most of it was held out, but it seems to me, and of course I wasn't there, that there were insinuations or statements made by prosecutors that would lead the jury to believe that you were somebody who was extreme or had racist views. So I guess my question is, did that happen during the trial?
Absolutely. And
it did.
This is despite.
So then my second question.
The judge's directions, despite the judge's instructions, that happened repeatedly.
So then my question is, the way this sounds to me, if everything you're saying is accurate, and for the sake of argument, let's say it is, that you had somebody who was excited to be there, it may be a little immature in saying some of the statements that you made previously and on that day, but you're being imprisoned, you're being held over for more than a year, then you're serving just under 3 years for saying some intemperate things that should have been precluded from the trial, that did not result in any action in furtherance of anything intemperate you may have said. That maybe maybe it was satirical, maybe it wasn't, but you can't connect anything you said to actions you took, and the actions you took on January 6th were all of a nonviolent character. So essentially you were in prison for 3 years because you said some dumb things that you may or may not have believed. You didn't act on them, but they imprisoned you anyway.
That's right. And one of the reasons for, justice delayed is justice denied. The reason it took 16 months for me to get a speedy trial is because I was housed with a bunch of informants. So, you have the fact that they try to sabotage our cases as well by housing us with Antifa. I was a perfect case for them to use quote-unquote insurrection as a Trojan horse for destroying, obliterating the First Amendment and every other amendment.
Are you going? You mentioned the denial of religious services and other rights that inmates have. Is there any legal action you're going to take or contemplating taking subsequent to your release now?
It would be great if everybody who had their rights violated was rewarded, but my main priority right now, besides rebuilding my life, is just getting the story out of what actually happened so that people can, people know what happened that day that led to people doing what they did, because a lot of it was extremely out of character for most people. I don't have any particular legal plans. My main priority legally is that the obstruction charge, the one felony I was convicted of, is overturned in the Supreme Court. 18 U.S.C. 1512, which was first upheld by informants in the district court. And so that's the only felony I have. Otherwise, I just have misdemeanors. If that gets tossed, then I'm not a felon. And that applies to a lot of people. And that's really where, people have their eyes right now, is at the Supreme Court. It's a shame that I had to serve my whole sentence for that to, end up there finally. But, I think it was a worthwhile wait. I'm always willing like I said, the reason I was a union leader is I'm always willing to fall on a sword if that's what it takes. I'm glad that we had the wins that we had in court with beating the enhancements. But, this is a big one. So I'm praying for those that I knew, the good men that I met in there, and those who might be charged in the future. I'm hoping that the 1512 is tossed by the Supreme Court. That's my main concern right now.
That is a big case. Tim Hale, 33-year-old Army Reserve veteran, recently released from jail after spending nearly 3 years in prison for nonviolent offenses on J6. Tim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you telling us your side of the story, and good luck to you.
I appreciate that. You have a good day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Why a computer scientist quit his dream job at MIT.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
8:32 on AM 560. The Answer. GOP candidates Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis held their final debate in Iowa last night, while frontrunner Donald Trump held his own town hall. Haley touting her record on immigration as governor of South Carolina.
I will tell you that when I was governor of South Carolina, we passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. Obama sued us over it, and we won.
Governor DeSantis called for more support for Israel's war with Hamas.
We got to support Israel in word and in deed, in public and in private, and they need to be able to finish the job.
Both called out Donald Trump for refusing to participate in those debates, and he held his own forum and stayed quiet, though, on his choice for VP.
Well, I can't tell you that, really. I know who it's going to be.
Give us a hint.
We'll do another show sometime.
The Iowa caucuses start this coming Monday. Alaska Airlines facing new troubles with a passenger jet. Last week, it was a panel that blew out of an Alaska Airlines flight. Tuesday, it was an Alaska Airlines flight from Washington State to Hawaii, redirected back to Oregon due to an issue with radios. Nick Saban moving on to the next chapter of his legendary Alabama head football coach life by announcing his retirement. Bulls push their winning streak to 3 following a 124-119 overtime victory against the Rockets in Chicago. Blackhawks will try to snap out of a cold skid when they visit the Winnipeg Jets tonight. Meantime, the NHL will be without one of its most promising and electric players for a long time. Blackhawks rookie Connor Bedard suffered a broken jaw. He'll miss up to 8 weeks. Bears fire offensive coordinator Luke Getsy. Big Ten hoops, Northwestern a win over Penn State. It's 8:34. We'll have a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
It's a new year, and that usually means a clean slate. But looking to the future, this country faces many challenges. Oh yeah, there's that thing called an election this year. But don't worry, we'll be here to give you fresh, intelligent ideas to meet the challenges of the future. Plus, election coverage you can count on. Here's to an insightful and memorable 2024. AM 560, The Answer.
Man, you talk about hitting a grand slam, just feeling just incredible. And I mean, I haven't felt this great in years. I'm 52, and with these, wow. And I just appreciate, I'm impressed. I've never felt this great. I just want to say thank you to you guys.
Honey, I am like a different woman. I mean, finally one day I kept seeing that commercial and I said, what the heck? What do I got to lose? I started feeling a little bit better. So I got my sister on them. I got my daughter on them. I can't say enough about them. I really can't. Those commercials that you all do is the truth.
Step into the new year with a new you. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Amy Jacobson here on behalf of all of us here at AM 560 The Answer. I wanted to take just a minute to say thank you to each and every one of you who's participated in our annual Food for the Poor campaign over the past month. Because of your generosity, we've raised nearly $200,000 to provide food for an entire year for over 4,700 children in Latin America and the Caribbean. We especially want to thank the many business benefactors who supported this campaign. This year, when you hear their commercials airing on this station, please support their businesses as a way of thanking them for their generosity. And just because the Christmas season is over, that doesn't mean that the need has gone away. You can still make a tax-deductible gift of any amount to Food for the Poor by visiting 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. That's 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. And on behalf of all of us here at AM 560 The Answer and at Food for the Poor, thanks again for your generosity.
You cannot live forever, but your legacy can. For over 185 years, families have trusted Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago to set their legacies in stone. With 47 locations throughout Cook and Lake counties, a prepaid cemetery plan locks in today's prices and safeguards against rising inflation. Visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org or call 708-236-5490 to schedule a free consultation today.
Are you ready for an adventure of a lifetime? Journey with me, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, on the Patriots Alaska cruise this summer. It's an incredible opportunity to engage with me and other like-minded patriots on an epic 7-day cruise over 4th of July weekend. Witness the untouched wilderness of Alaska while discussing America's future. What could be better? Join me from June 29th to July 6th. Call 855-565-5519 or reserve online. PatriotsAlaskaCruise.com.
This hourly segment is sponsored by Protecting Your Assets with Steve Scheinman. Listen Saturday mornings at 8. Learn more at willsave.com.
It is 8:38. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of In Grace with Jim Scudder Jr. Now heard on Sunday morning at 6:30 on AM 560 The Answer. Inbound Eden's jam solid Cicero to the junction, 24 in from Lake Cook Road. The Kennedy is at an hour and 7 minutes this morning from O'Hare to the Burns Circle interchange. Inbound Ike, solid 25th to Racine. It is 73 minutes from 390 into the old post office. Stevenson outbound road construction between Clarendon Hills Road and Joliet Road has 2 left lanes closed, and there is an accident also on the outbound Stevenson with a left lane block near Ashland Avenue. Inbound Ryan 31 heavy minutes 95th into the Byrne Circle interchange, and you've got stop-and-go traffic on the Reagan I-88 eastbound between Cermak Road and the Tri-State. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. The latest from the QC Kinetics Weather Center. Clouds this morning. A little bit of clouds and sunshine mixed by the afternoon. High 32. Cloudy with snow beginning late in the evening. Coating to an inch overnight. Low 26. 32 right now at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Cause they got the beat, the campus beat, the campus beat. Yeah, the campus beat.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. DIE is not DEA dead by any stretch. Long, torturous road to hoe. Western Illinois University, the Leathernecks, will be holding its first day of racial healing in conjunction with the celebration of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It'll be the day after.
Racial healing.
The first day event, Racism for White People. That will be led by Professor Robert Hieronymus Wendt of the Sociology and Anthropology Department. The discussion is needed as racism, quote, is almost always perceived as threatening to white people. White people also allegedly put on armor, so to speak, when discussions involve whiteness, white privilege, white advantage, etc. Learning how to think about such matters and how to put down our armor is an essential first step toward building a beloved community. Oh, right. We need to make white people feel included and needed before we can hope to enlist them in the fight to reduce racism in our presence. The professor's specialty includes teaching and learning, social inequality, and labor relations. Other events include discussions on the Chicago race riot of 1919, xenophobia, battling anti-Semitism, and student-based advocacy regarding Latin American immigrants. Gee, I wonder how those discussions will take shape. Attendees can also take a day of racial healing pledge. Would you like to take the pledge?
I might pass on that, but okay.
Well,
you want to take the pledge?
Do you want to be an ally or not? I guess is the question. The pledge, Western Illinois State University. The Day of Racial Healing's Community Learning Outcomes section claims that cognitive multicultural consciousness includes a complex understanding of cultural differences, an awareness and understanding of the histories and experiences of others, and an acceptance of the idea that a difference in values, ways of making meaning, thought, perspective, and background does not mean a culture or an individual is lesser or greater than your own. This National Day of Racial Healing began in 2017, and it's not stopping. The goal is to promote racial healing activities that happen in homes, schools, businesses, and communities across the country to create a more just and equitable future for our children. How's that going? How is that going? Now in its 7th year, the Day of Racial Healing. How's it going? Well, not so well at MIT. By the way, it is worth noting that Sally Kornbluth, the president at MIT, who was there at that same hearing on that same day with Liz McGill and Claudine Gay, who have now been removed from their posts. She's survived so far. There's no reason she should have, or should, since it's present tense. This piece penned over at Barry Weiss's outlet, the Free Press. Mauricio Karchmer is the author. Why I Quit My Dream Job at MIT. The upshot, I refuse to teach students who lack basic critical thinking skills or who condemn my Jewish identity. You wouldn't think that would be a problem at MIT. And you'd be wrong. Professor Karchmer was born in Mexico to a Jewish family, immigrated to the States in the 80s, obtained his master's at Harvard, then moved to Israel for his PhD in computer science. Started working as an assistant professor at MIT. After a career in the financial industry, returned in later in life as a lecturer, and now he's sought out. His classes are sought after in computer science. After October 7th, the Hamas terrorist attack, he urged his department head to send out a message, condemning the attack and restating what he thought erroneously were MIT's values. The statement that ultimately came out of the computer science department and its Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, of course, it's not just one office on campus. It's DI offices associated with every department. University of Michigan has 500 DI employees with an annual salary cost of $30 million.
What exactly do they do? Can we audit that?
They issue statements like
statements
with equivocations, like Professor Karchmer describes here. The message was riddled with equivocations without mentioning the barbarity of Hamas's attack, stating only we're deeply horrified by violence against civilians, right? Which civilians, who are the perpetrators of violence? Well, we don't have to get into that ugliness. Mm-hmm. He writes, I was shocked that my institution could not simply condemn a brutal terrorist attack. Another guy focused on, his discipline, computer science and so forth, and just doesn't realize what's going on around him. A lot of that on college campuses and in the donor class and in the larger culture. The following month, our faculty newsletter almost entirely dedicated to the protests, the pro-Hamas protests, with several professors parroting anti-Israel propaganda. The only voices that were standing up, according to this MIT computer science professor, only voices standing up for Jews were Jewish. I cringed as I read faculty letters and shuddered as I walked by protests on campus. Nothing has hurt more than watching the Israeli and Jewish students, who comprise fewer than 6% of the MIT student body, suffer. He talks about those, gives some examples of those who did stand up and exhibited great courage. But he concludes the leadership at MIT had failed him and them. He mentions Sally Kornbluth. I sent a series of emails to President Kornbluth long before her hearing with Gay and McGill, begging her to speak out in support of Jewish students. They want to hear that the Institute is with them, I wrote. They are suffering, I'm sure you know. She was always prompt in responding. She told me about her attempts to meet with Jewish students by attending dinner at our campus Hillel. I appreciated her for that. But it's just not enough. Students at MIT and other elite colleges have been radicalized by faculty members who've encouraged them and even led the student body to become social justice warriors, supporting their highly progressive political beliefs. This isn't revelatory to us, but it is to him, and that's sort of part of the point here. The thinking has led to an illiberalism on MIT's campus. Certain speakers have been canceled for having the wrong views. This should have been leading indicators of what was to come, Professor. But again, he's now reflecting on all that's transpired since he came back to MIT 4 years ago, and he's like, oh, now I'm connecting the dots. Over 65% of students from each MIT undergraduate class, around 800 students, enroll in my Introduction to Algorithms course every year. When I looked at the names of the leaders of some of the most violent anti-Israel groups on campus, I found a handful of my students on the list. Then I found that one of my former teaching assistants, bright young woman, was one of the organizers of the Coalition Against Apartheid and helped bring pro-Hamas speaker to campus. I love my job, but I realized there and then I could no longer train kids in algorithms knowing they might one day spread this ideology even further than their advanced knowledge. I knew I could no longer be a part of a system that foments anti-Semitism. In late November, I sat on the ferry I used to take from MIT's campus back home and decided I should resign. The letter stated in part, I cannot continue teaching algorithms to those who lack the most basic critical thinking skills or emotional intelligence, nor can I teach those who condemn my Jewish identity or my support for Israel's right to exist in peace with its neighbors. His boss asked him to reconsider, but he didn't. It's been 1 month since I've resigned, and for now I'm spending a lot of time reflecting. I still have hope MIT can return to its roots, offering one of the best science and engineering educations in the world, and that the good forces can beat the bad. MIT's mission is to train the next generation of leaders, but right now, I'm terrified of the thought that today's students could lead anything in the future. One of the best science and engineering educations in the world, an MIT degree in science and engineering. I mean, you expect these people to be the great innovators generation after generation, right? And now you have a computer science professor accomplished in his own right there saying, I'm terrified of the thought that today's students at MIT could lead anything in the future. That's where it's at. So, as we've said in real time, as we were discussing the swirl around UPenn President McGill and Harvard President Gay that ultimately led to their ousters, you don't get too giddy. The poisonous well at these places is deep, seemingly bottomless, and obviously you're seeing it play out in the streets all over the country as well. Something else I thought was really interesting, this homework assignment that Mark Andreessen, the great venture capitalist, U of I grad, by the way, that he suggested people do to sort of think about where things are right now in our culture, despite this, temporary setback for these die totalitarians. Really interesting. I think this is a good exercise. You want to do a little thought exercise? And I'll tell you what, you want to do, if you've got college-age kids, have them do this thought exercise. That would be really interesting to see what people say. Here's his homework assignment. Make a list of all the things you believe but can't say. Then a list of things you don't believe but must say. Make a list of all the things you believe but you don't think you can say. Wherever. College campus comes to mind first, but it could be at your business.
Right. Or city
it could
government.
It could be a social organization. It could be anywhere. Make a list of the things you believe but can't say, then a list of the things you don't believe but must say. And I'll tell you what, if you can make that list, then we're talking about what we've been talking about for many years on this show, having to live a life by lies, having to have a different life publicly than you have privately. And that was a hallmark of the Soviet Empire. And it's a hallmark of every totalitarian regime. When there are things I believe but can't say and things I don't believe but must say. If you can make that list, then you can't then turn around and say we live in a free society. And that should be chilling. Grant in Rockford, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, you guys. Hey, I'm a Western Illinois grad, as well as my wife. We actually met down there, and I remember they were completing the $6 million multicultural center when I was a construction management major down there, and all of my cis white classmates were impressed at the $6 million building that none of us would be welcome in. I think that my Western values diploma is about in the tank with your Northwestern diploma, Dan. It's so good I've had to take a second job in this fighting economy. Add me to the low unemployment numbers.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for the call, Grant. Oh, and by the way, just as a quick aside, December inflation numbers ran hotter than expected, bumped up. Yeah, the Fed has tamed this beast. Anyway, Terry.
Biden will spin that, I'm sure.
Terry, Southside.
Yeah, trying to simplify arguments. Israel is different than Jewish. If Vatican was doing horrible stuff, you don't criticize all Christians, and they try to lump the argument together. I mean, you can criticize Israel. They've done horrible things. So has Palestine. But it doesn't mean you condemn all Jews. They try to simplify the argument, and it's not that simple.
You can criticize Israel and without being anti-Semitic, of course. But that's not what we're talking about here. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're describing as happening on college campuses, any more than what you see happening in the streets. That is not... I have a policy disagreement with Israel. You don't have a policy disagreement when you're saying it's an apartheid state. And not to mention, you can't explain why you think that. I mean, the idea that these are just... Look, I have a disagreement with Netanyahu's... move here, or the policy there, or this law or that law. No, they're not. That's not what's happening. That's not what's happening at all. And forget even criticizing Israel, the equivocations and the basically passive-aggressive defenses, rationalizations of the Hamas terrorist attack, of Hamas's terrorist activity generally, from its inception, as per its stated objective, tells you everything you need to know. There's no nuance there. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When you need to ship sensitive or large and heavy equipment, the DC Group in Elk Grove has the experience and expertise to handle the biggest and most complicated jobs. DC Export and Domestic Packing Inc. was founded in 1974 by the husband and wife team of Dominic and Carol Cacciamiglio. Beginning in a building not much bigger than a 4-car garage, the company now boasts 2 Chicago area facilities totaling 100,000 square feet, plus a 45,000 square foot FTZ warehouse in Greenville, South Carolina. Through these facilities and their long-standing agents, they offer nationwide packing, crating, container, and flat rack loading unloading, as well as warehousing, all with heavy lift capabilities. Other products available include custom-made boxes, crates, skids, and corrosion control solutions. DC Transport was founded in 1991 to meet the growing needs of their customers and provide transportation services throughout North America. From container drayage to super heavy haul loads, DC Transport can help you move just about anything. Go to dcexport.com for